Let me see your identification.
What did you say? I'll tighten those restraints. Scavenger scum.
We don't need to see his identification.
I will remove these restraints and leave the cell with the door open.
My lord.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Sidebar Cantina, the podcast where we talk about Star Wars, pop culture, Disney pissing away money, or whatever the fuck we feel like talking about. I'm Mr. Jason Roscom. With me here remotely is our good friend Dave Martin. Hello, Dave.
Hello, Jason.
How are you?
I'm fine. On cue. I'm alive.
That's always a good thing.
I'm here not spreading the plague to you before you leave on vacation. So,
Much appreciated.
yeah. I also didn't go into the office today for the very same reason, because, you know, being around a bunch of aviators, trying not to get them sick is imperative.
Mhm.
So, yeah. So, quite frankly, I didn't feel like doing shit today. I just being old and getting sick it just hits different.
Yeah.
I can't describe it. It just is different.
Yeah, well, I'm finding that about a lot of things about being old, not just when you're sick, but when you do other stuff. It's
Yeah, sadly.
yeah.
Dude.
Myself
Now, what'd you hurt yourself doing?
stretching once recently.
Stretching. Why on God's green earth would you be stretching?
I don't know.
Like stretching like a yawn, or like stretching?
Yeah, just
like,
kind of like the.
Oh yeah, see that checks.
Yeah.
That's about right. Yeah, existence is pain. No, dude, we haven't done remote in forever. Right?
No.
I can't even tell you.
I mean, since COVID, I think we've only done remote once or twice, just out of necessity for, whatever reason.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't mind doing it. It's just it's the I need a new microphone for at home. But regardless of that, because we had some I don't know where the camera is. It's over there. Excuse me. We had some technical issues getting logged in. But dude, the fucking, did you notice how loud the introduction video is? Like when we're doing it remote?
It seemed the same to me.
Really? It was
Yeah.
loud as shit
Oh,
for
no.
me.
Huh. Well, to the folks in the chat, how did it sound to you? Normal volume or very loud? Let us
Oh.
know.
I don't know. Maybe it's just when you play the video when I'm in studio, like through my headset, the way I monitor it,
Mhm.
it's relatively low, the volume. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because right now, dude, when you hit the play, I was like, what the fuck?
really,
Like, is it this loud every time?
wow.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're actually here to talk about something that's not related to hurting ourselves, being sick, or Disney pissing away money. So what are we talking about today?
We're talking about a small film. Small. Yeah, come on, man. There you go. Get on the ball.
It's
I like how
gotta,
you had to-
reach around stuff.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
I'm
37?
or 30. What's the anniversary? What's the date?
35th for
35 years ago.
yeah.
I wanted to say 37. 35 years ago, The Hunt for Red October hit the silver screen.
Yeah, and
Uh,
it's crazy too that it's 35 fucking years old, because I can remember seeing commercials for it on TV for as it was coming out.
Yeah, and in 1990, I was a freshman in high school in 1990, and the Cold War was still something that was still a reality, right? The Soviet was still a threat. It was something still so palatable about like good versus evil when it comes to us versus the Russians. So, and I remember distinctly this movie, and we'll get into why
Yeah.
as we go along.
Okay. But yeah, so we're talking about that, and do we want to take care of some business?
You can take care of business.
Well, as always, we'd love to give a huge shout out to all of our current patrons: Frank Kalevich, Don Solsky, Helen Martin, Shotgun Mark, Nick from Sweet Studios, Scott and Kim from Used and Abused, Catherine Rennick, Tina Land, Wally Frogmore, my wonderful mother-in-law, Patricia Goodstein, Lord Helmet Fire, The Orange and Fett Show, Carly Vickers, David Schmuck, Chantal from Pop My Culture, Kristen Roscom, Sterling Asia, Dragon Buddy, Frederick Martin, and Nicholas Schaefer. If you'd like to consider becoming a supporter, you can find us at patreon.com/the Sidebar Cantina. Thank you again to all of our listeners and supporters. You are the reason why we do this.
My turn.
Yeah.
Sidebar headlines. I've got no news is good news,
All right.
and that's it. That's it.
All right.
That's it for sidebar headlines. There's enough shit going on in the world. We don't need extra shit to be worried about.
Right.
So, yeah, no news
Okay.
is good news.
Well, then I guess we'll move right into our weeks.
Yeah.
And for me, it's all about the Disney, baby. I wrote it's Disney bitch in the notes because that's where my focus is now. We're going to be a week from right now. We will be in Hollywood Studios, probably in Galaxy's Edge doing something. So, yeah, it's going to be great.
Yeah, I'm jealous. Obviously, I'd love to be going to Disney, if for nothing else, just to get out of the weather.
Yeah.
Although I think it was nice out today.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
The half second I went outside to, I don't know, think about picking up dog shit and then getting dizzy and then not doing it. But it seemed relatively nice.
Yeah, it was. It's been, fairly warm these last couple of days, but this is just that the weather just like giving us that little tease. Like here's a little bit of warm weather before we fucking slam you again.
Well, what did the groundhog find out?
I thought that was this coming week.
No, it's February 2nd is Groundhog Day.
Oh shit.
Uh-huh.
I have no idea.
All right, Google that shit.
All right. Did the groundhog see his shadow 2025? Yes, Puxatawny Phil saw his shadow on Groundhog Day, February 2nd, 2025. This prediction means that winter will last another 6 weeks. Fuck you.
So what's funny is I heard that, like Kathy said that, well, because we were in DC when all that happened. And then I heard on Sirius XM, somebody said that he didn't see a shadow. So I'm like, I don't know which one's right.
I don't know what's real or not.
What I do know is that first day of spring is March 21st.
Okay. So we're
Like
getting
it is
there.
every year.
Yeah.
Just saying.
So, we've gotten snow in April before, so
Yeah.
I'm not
I
getting
think-
comfortable yet.
I think there's going to be at least one more good cold snap
Yeah.
around here before just to get us just to fuck us over. I bought ice scrapers. So I'm doing my part. I don't know where the camera is. I'm doing my part.
Uh-huh.
I bought ice scrapers because for the life of me, I don't know where the fuck my ice scrapers went. And I've been using like the side of a credit card to fucking scrape my windshield in the morning.
Right.
Fucking annoying. So I bought ice scrapers. And so we should not ever get ice again.
Right.
That should be it. We should be good to go the rest of the season. I have ice scrapers now. I'm prepared.
Oh yeah, it's like the guy who bought a snowblower and it doesn't snow for 2 years kind of thing.
Yep, exactly. Be like the Chuck Brinzer who buys a snowblower and has it for like 6 years, never gets a chance to use it, and then the second he moves to Florida and sells it, it snows like fucking, 3 years in a row.
Yep. Yep, is the way of the world. So anyway, yeah, Disney, man, it's going to be great. We're going to be there for 6 days in the park. It's now the first and last days are going to be half days because we're flying those days. But yeah, we got 6 days in the parks. We're staying at one of the on-site properties, and it's going to be fun as fuck. And I'm going to have a lot to say when I get back, I'm sure, and I'm going to be tired as fuck. But
Yeah.
But yeah, that's been really me. I haven't been doing much else. So, what say you, sir?
Besides getting sick, which has been dominating my past 24 hours, took Kathy to see the pandas in DC this past weekend. You don't look impressed.
Well, so is this like a thing that they've always had? Pandas in a
So
like a
in
zoo or
the
something?
in the National Zoo, they've had pandas in the past, and then it's kind of it's kind of fucked.
How so?
I don't. All right, so China has like the market cornered on these bears. I mean, which is fair. I mean that's where they're from,
Yeah.
right? So these are China bears, but once the
It sounds so wrong when you say that. China
I know,
bears.
right? How about Chinese bears? Is that better?
So small.
Anyway, go ahead.
So these Chinese bears, when they, what the fuck is that? 2 inches of snow on Saturday. What the deuce?
Who's saying this?
It's in the bottom corner of my screen.
Jesus.
Anyway.
All right, carry on. I'm gonna just check WeatherBug real quick.
No. So apparently, the National Zoo has had pandas, and when they get to a certain age for breeding, they get sent back to China. Like after 4 years, they get sent back to China, and then they come back to the United States after a certain period of time. It's part of this like lend-lease agreement with these bears. So, and it's been a while since we had some in the States. I guess the pandas that we had gotten older and passed away. So, and Kathy has been super into pandas all of a sudden, and when we found out they were coming back, it turned into a thing. So we originally booked it for the opening weekend that they were going to be there, but she ended up having to work, so we pushed it to the next weekend, which was this past weekend. And of course, the Thursday before the Friday morning we're supposed to leave, she starts feeling sick. And we can't cancel our reservations down there. So it's like, all right, Sicky, get loaded up in the car. So we go, to Harrisburg to meet up with Kate because she took care of Holly for the weekend. And then
Holly's his dog, for those of you who don't know.
Yeah, duh. Who doesn't know that? Why do we keep looking over here for the camera? And then we went down to DC, and it was rainy. It was fucking miserable. It was just bleh. It was just a terrible drive to get down there. We got there late on Friday, and she was miserable. Got up early Saturday, and went and saw the pandas, and it was relatively. We got there. It was like 9:30, 10ish, and got right into. If you're going to the National Zoo, the trick is to get your reserved parking, so that when you pull up, you could just go. They just boop. They scan your thing and go.
Right.
As part of the Christmas present for going to do this, I got us a zoo membership for the National Zoo.
Oh, nice.
It's a free zoo. Like, so if you're going to go if you're going to go there, it is free to go. But one of the perks of being a member is you get free parking. So
Okay.
if you go there a couple times, the parking alone is going to work itself out. Because like anything in DC, it's expensive if you're um, doing it out on the economy.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think it's $30 to park if you're not a member.
Damn.
So anyway, we get, had my little scanny, how you doing? Pulled right into the parking lot, marched up to where the bears were. The rest of the zoo is like, I can't tell you the last time I've been in a zoo in the winter. It had this like weird, like, we're not supposed to be here type feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was definitely strange, but when you got down to where the pandas were, both pandas were out and about doing the thing, and they. Hang on a second. I want to make sure that this is. Make sure it's turned down. All right. That's why I'm looking at something that's. I moved the screen over.
Ah, okay.
So because I have the camera set up over here, so there's no glare, and it's like it's a very complex setup I have going here.
Is there still glare since sun's going down?
Well, I'm not going to move the camera now, Jason.
Okay.
Jeez.
You do you, man.
Anyway, so yeah, I went. This backdrop's better anyway. I went to. No, we went and saw the bears, and then while we were there, like everyone else, got up and started their Saturday morning and like started piling in behind us. So if you're following me on Instagram and you see the pictures I posted,
Which I did see.
like we're like front and center for the one bear was where I'm pretty sure it was. I don't know. I don't even want to speculate which one it was, but one of the bears was like eating. And holy shit, if you don't enjoy your meal like a panda eating some fucking bamboo, holy shit. If it's like this bear loved eating its food. Fucking loved it. It was
He's making his O face while he was eating.
Oh my god! Like, you should see all the pictures. Like, just rubbing the fucking bamboo on his face. Like, oh god, this is the best. When it got all of it. Yeah, it was. That bear was happy to eat, and then there was enough people kind of dogpiling behind us where it was getting uncomfortable. So we had our fill, and then we went back to the room, and Kathy did some studying and rested, and then I proceeded to feel like shit. And then so we saw a lot of the inside of the hotel room, and then left on Sunday. And during the drive, I started just feeling worse and worse. And then last night was like just the worst of it. And today, I feel better. It's 20 after 5. I still feel crappy, but not as bad as I did this time last night.
Yeah.
So I guess that's progress.
Yeah. Any improvement is good.
Yeah, and I'm not coughing. Like Kathy's had a real bad cough.
Yeah.
So it's like anything else. It's like exponential. But anyway, got to see the bears.
The bears.
The bears. The Chinese bears.
Yeah.
Which, saying that, so I was in DC and was right down the street from Reagan.
Oh.
And really had to resist the temptation to drive down there.
Yeah.
And not for any other reason than just because really not that much to see anyway. And I know Kathy wouldn't want to go down there, so I would have had to have been like, "Hey, dude, you hang out." Like she would have been resting in a room anyway, so I could have done it.
Mm-hmm.
But it really just would have. I don't know. It just wasn't something that I needed to do.
Right.
So I didn't. I spared myself the anguish of going down there. But it does bring up the point, and I know we had some texting back and forth about that mishap.
Mm-hmm.
About our thoughts on it, because look, our careers were spent as aviators.
That's right.
And in particular, as radio operators, we listened to the air traffic control and sometimes got to be directive on some of these things, especially during things like air refuelings.
Oh, yeah.
So the proximity of other aircraft in the pattern is especially in that DC airspace where it's going to be a challenge, and we have normalized the risk as aviators
of just letting them like kind of push
well
more and more and more vehicles into smaller spaces.
Well, that also,
mm-hmm.
But I just think that in general, as we do risk management and stuff like that, what we're doing is we're doing risk management, but we're also marginalizing risk.
Mm-hmm.
And we have technology, and this is where sometimes the leaning into AI is going to be problematic, is because we're going to probably get further away from human beings actually trying to manage some of that risk
right
more effectively. Now, the DC accident, unfortunately, and I'd love to hear what you think, but my take on it is the helicopter was out of position, and it was at night. They were asked by the controller to identify that they had the traffic in sight, which they did.
Yep, multiple times.
And in those conditions, at that low altitude, the ground lighting is going to be a factor.
Oh yeah, because
right?
They were doing the night vision goggle testing also on that helicopter.
Yeah, in which it just makes it even worse.
Right, it just amplifies all of that light. And I
Yeah.
could see how they could get, plane lights confused with other lights. Or, you got planes departing as well.
Yeah, departing aircraft is certainly not helping the situation when you're like, all right, I'm watching. Do you have the CRJ in sight? Yep, got it in sight. And then, so everyone who wants to criticize the air traffic controllers, that controller got the proximity warning within his section, within the RAPCON there, before, because I don't think they were on Tower Freak yet.
Oh, the helicopters weren't?
Yeah, I don't think so. No, I don't think they were on Tower yet. I may be wrong now. Remember, fever brain right now.
Yeah.
But regardless, the controller had gotten the proximity warning and asked the helicopter again to make sure they had the traffic in sight, where Helmet Fire says they were both on Tower. So, okay. But it was asked again to verify they had the traffic in sight, which, again, they confirmed, and they were passing behind. So they kind of doubled down on, yeah, we have the traffic in sight. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
And they never actually saw what was in front of them, which is that other aircraft.
Mm-hmm.
That CRJ never had a chance
Yeah.
unfortunately. And there's very, 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 very little that could have been done from the CRJ's perspective. Like, even with a TCAS hit, flying that complex approach, they're doing an ILS into one runway, stepping over to do a tight circling approach into the other runway, so they can sequence other aircraft off. There's a lot of moving parts to that. It's very busy airspace. And if you're a pilot crew, it is going to take all your faculties to make sure that you're in the aircraft and looking and finding a runway and getting there.
Not thinking you're going to have to, evade a helicopter.
Yeah. Who has said that they have you?
Yeah.
And they're passing behind. Because I know for me, like, if I'm in the airplane and I'm on the radios and I hear that, I automatically, that call sign is gone to me.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about that because that call sign is now no longer co-altitude. Like, this would happen a lot when we'd be flying, like, we'd be flying over Africa and we're calling our own position reports and stuff like that, where you have airplanes that be co-altitude all the time because fucking Africa. And there's
Cradle
parts
of fucking civilization.
Yeah. But we'd be flying, and we're in the States. It's like, okay, if you're at even altitudes, you're flying. Was it even? Oh man, is it even eastbound? Odd as westbound?
It's been a while. I'd have to open up the book again.
Fuck. Helmet Fire will remember. He's got that memory. But anyway, it's stacked deliberately. Like your IFR roadways in the sky, for lack of a better term, are all set up in certain ways to kind of prevent these things. Whereas you could be out in the middle of uncontrolled airspace in Africa, and you have to be listening what's out there. What altitude are they calling their position at? And now you're kind of responsible for your own deconfliction at that point. Northeast is even, south and west is odd. Thank you. Knew he would. Knew he'd have it. So, yeah, I've been out of the jet for almost a decade now, which is
my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess it's been almost the same for me.
Well.
Yeah, 2016. Jesus Christ.
So anyway, the moral of the story is what the NTSB is going to find out, and I whatever the rhetoric on the by the pundits is, and whatever idiot that CNN is hired for to stand there and talk about it. I mean, it's a tragic loss of life.
Yeah.
And the rules of aviation are written in blood. It is something we're told even when we were going through maintenance school. Any mistake that you make like that is potentially life-threatening.
Yeah.
And that's why check rides are hard. That's why, not everybody can do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what are your thoughts on the...
Yeah, like you said, tragedy. I feel awful for all involved and their families. But it does seem to me to be fairly on the helicopter, because I mean they did at least twice. They said, "Yes, I have that traffic in sight," and the controller took them at their word, because that's typically how things go. You tell the controller, "I got him in sight. I'll avoid him." Just like you said, when you're in the airplane, they're like, "Okay, don't have to worry about this. Let's, move on." But even like as they were getting closer and closer, you could kind of hear it in the controller's voice, like, "Hey, are you good? You all cool?" And yeah, I mean, I don't know if the controller could have done anything else.
Because at some point, even if you called a go around for the CRJ, again, you're asking the controller at that point to predict the future
Right.
of what is going to happen in a space of 100 feet. Excuse me. If that the helicopter being out of position, like with the route that they were supposed to be flying, is supposed to be on the other side um, of the Potomac, at or below 200 feet, and they're drifted up as high as 300 feet towards the center of the Potomac.
Mhm.
You know, that's all happening at 160 knots or
Yeah.
or thereabouts. So you got a closure rate that's happening. You have a helicopter that you can't predict that it's going to be increasing in altitude. The computer that is within the air traffic control system is giving you like, hey, this bubble is about to get broken. You need to do something about it, which the controller did.
Right.
And he verified with the helicopter, like, hey, you have that traffic in sight, because he had already validated it. Like, this is just like, okay, let me get this warm fuzzy again.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
How is he to know that he did not have it?
Yeah. Again, because you can't like second guess them and try to figure out on your own if, like, does he really have it in sight? Because if he says he's got it, then you got to take him at their word. But you could Monday morning quarterback this all day.
Yeah.
Like they could have called a go around, or could have told the helicopters, do a 180, get the fuck out of here, or something. But
yeah, and at what point do you call the go? I mean, if you're on the CRJ and by the time that happens, you say, okay, go around, and you hit the toga. Your toga stands for take off, go around. Like, you're basically hitting buttons that are telling, when you're in a landing configuration, is telling the aircraft that, hey, we're going to accelerate and go around. We're going to be in a configuration that's going to take us to a go around condition.
Yeah.
But that takes time. In an instance where things are happening in milliseconds,
yeah,
it's tough, because physics is still a thing. The airplanes are still moving in space. You can't just make those things happen instantaneously.
Yeah.
So,
like we were always taught, most incidents are a chain of events, right? It's
mhm.
never one thing that contributes to an accident, typically.
Yeah.
And in this case, it was no different. It was, nighttime flight. They were using NVGs. It was an NVG training flight for the helicopter. So, the light issue that we were talking about, just a couple of different things that just made for a bad incident.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a suck salad.
Yeah.
You feel for everybody involved.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, and I know now because of that, because we're flying in a couple of days, that's kind of given some of the family a little bit of nerves.
mm,
And, I'm trying to reassure them, like, look, this is a very isolated incident. This is not, because as some people are concerned that this might be due to political stuff that happened the same week. And I'm just trying to convince them, like, no, flying is as safe as it's ever been. This is our worst accident since
2009.
Yeah, and even before that, it was 2001. So
Yeah.
we typically don't have these kind of incidents in the United States very few times ever anymore.
Unless you have two in the same weekend.
Right. Yeah, because that's the way things go. And then
Yeah.
we had this other incident here in was it Northeast Philly?
Yeah. Taken out of Northeast Philly airport. Had that Learjet crash. Which, so my initial take on that, after seeing all the videos and stuff, my initial take on it was, I haven't seen an airplane fall out of the sky like that since the 747 that fell out of the sky in Afghanistan.
The one
With
that
the shifted-
stalled on takeoff.
Yeah, with the shifted cargo load.
Mhm.
Now, one of the YouTube followers Blanco Lirio, I was watching his stuff yesterday, and he walked through part of that mishap, and what he had stated kind of talked me out of that theory. So, and what he was talking about was more about spatial disorientation.
Oh.
55-year-old airplane, maybe the flight director isn't the best. They were on
And that was a shitty night for weather too. It was
was.
raining a lot that night. Some pretty
Yeah.
heavy rain.
they were in IMC. It was a 400-foot ceiling. I mean, they were accelerating normally. The handoff from ATC sounded normal,
And then 30 seconds later, they were
Yeah.
done.
It's almost like they hit some turbulence and potentially got, ass over teacup, because those Learjets, I mean, they used to take those the Air Force ones and they used them as aggressors back in the day.
Right.
Because of their performance. I mean, they're little rocket ships, and they have high performance rating.
Mm-hmm.
So
you can do a barrel roll.
you could, and if you're, depending on what the avionics and stuff looked like in that, if you're not flying, if you lose your situational awareness to the point where you're hand flying that departure and fumble fucking with the radios and trying to, all of a sudden you're in an abnormal condition, and you'll have all the smash in for your takeoff thrust still, but now your airplane's in a weird configuration where you could potentially be inverted.
Yeah.
And then you try and recover from that, and then you're just gonna, basically turn it into a cruise missile.
Yeah, that's what the videos look like. It looks like a fucking missile just like plowing down on Philly.
Yeah, the crater is the crater is incredible. The debris field. I saw some NTSB B-roll today that I was looking at, the showing how the crater from the impact, and then how for the way the nose hit, and then obviously everything kind of collapses behind it and then like spread out like this. So like the sections of the tail like ended up a block away. Like it was like, you could tell just everything just kind of sprayed out. Yeah. So yeah, it's absolutely just devastating. And you have
what?
I just was reading Chris Force. I think something's fishy. I flew that like 5 times in Flight Sim afterwards, and I don't get it. Yeah, be careful with that. That's your watch the stuff with what's his nuts, the Miracle of the Hudson.
Oh yeah,
Sully. Talk about Sully, what they were doing in the sim. Like, oh, we saved it every time. Like, okay.
Yeah, because you knew exactly what was coming.
Yeah, human factors being what it is, like it's really hard to know how a human being is going to react in a particular situation.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully the CVR will tell us something. It didn't have a flight data recorder. It had a cockpit voice recorder. So maybe we can get something from that. Which the fact that they were able to recover that is out of, it was out of the crater.
Oh, really?
And then the enhanced JipWiz also, they're saying they can get some data out of that.
Okay. Yeah, hopefully it was just some weird freak incident, like you said, and nothing beyond that. So
a lot of people on the ground. unfortunately there was a press conference today with the mayor of Philadelphia, who, God love her, she's a trip. Parker is she's working hard. She's handling it like a champ.
Mhm.
They had the secretary of the transportation department was there. She can't spell Eagles to save her life.
Really?
There's some fun T-shirts out there to have it. Like she was on a excuse me. She was on a broadcast and she spelled it like Eggles, like
Eggles.
Yeah. So there's some T-shirts, but yeah, she's doing a good job. I think the number's seven confirmed fatalities. So that's one, at least one on the ground.
Yeah.
That had gotten killed, and 24 injured. So, yeah,
it sucks.
craziness. And then that F-35. Somebody brought it up in the chat. Yeah, the whole thing. The weekend started with that F-35 crash.
That's right. Forgot about that.
In Alaska. That was, which, sad to say, is when I initially saw it, now suddenly became the most benign thing out of all of this. Is losing an F-35, because thankfully the pilot ejected, and there's an F-35 crashed. Shit, that sucks.
Yeah.
But
got to go pay Lockheed Martin a couple more billion, get another one.
they're not that. It was an A model. It wasn't that expensive.
Okay.
Yeah, the Air Force doesn't spend that much. They're essentially lawn darts, just more expensive lawn darts. But yeah, whatever fuck happened, like that airplane falling, and again, another airplane that just stopped being an airplane.
Right.
It just like fell out of the fucking sky. It's as an aviator, I agree with you 100%. It's still the safest mode of transportation that you're going to have, because there is no other method of transportation that is going to take as seriously what happened in these mishaps and then analyze it to see what they could do to prevent it from happening again.
Yeah, and it's like you said, all of those rules are written in blood for, there's a reason, because we do things the way we do things because we learned a lot of lessons in those early days.
Yeah.
But we're still learning them now. So hopefully, especially with the DC one, hopefully something comes out of this to where they can, better control the fucking local helicopter traffic.
Well, the helicopter traffic, the overall, the manning issue that they could potentially be having in that area.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they could. Everyone can use a little bit more staffing. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So nobody's going to complain about that. And yeah, maybe there's some technology out there that might be in testing that we can kind of uncork. Maybe we can, unlock something out of the TCAS system that would potentially, allow something like that to not happen.
Mm-hmm.
Last thing I'll say about that, in particular, and Jason, I'm sure you've had resolution advisories that.
Oh yeah.
That'll.
One that sent me airborne once.
Yeah, as I sit here and say how safe everything is, and then we turn around and say, yeah, we also had resolution advisories. Flying is dangerous. We're flipping the bird at God, and saying, you know what, we're gonna take some basic principles of physics, and we're going to go ahead and throw hundreds of thousands of pounds of metal into the air, and fuck you. But that being said, we had we had a resolution advisory on short final into McGuire at the end of a long trip, and I actually wrote a paper on it for Embry-Riddle because of the situation. It was an airplane that was coming out of it was either the W or South Jersey Regional, and departing at an uncontrolled field and just making a beeline right on an intercept course for us. And it got close enough to the point where the L3 guys in the back said that they could see the pilot's sunglasses and like get a really good look at the fucking the tail number.
Oof.
So yeah, it was sporty, and it was a CRM nightmare, and I'm not going to get into that.
Mm-hmm.
But the moral of the story is that even though we were at an altitude where we still had the ability to have a resolution advisory, whereas the CRJ was below that altitude.
Mm-hmm.
And there's going to be a lot to say for that. So I think that there's something that can come out of this for what we do about resolution advisories, and we know that the airplanes can talk to each other. Maybe we should be focused on that and making that work better.
And for the layperson, when he talks about these resolution advisories, it means that the aircraft yells at you and basically says, climb, climb, or descend, descend.
Right.
When it senses that there's another aircraft right there and you're about to hit.
Yeah. I mean, the basics of it is like you have an airplane, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go figure. I have an airplane right here. Then you have this other airplane. This guy probably doesn't have ADS-B. I'm just saying, but
sure.
The Da Vinci Flyer here, he's has a transponder that's saying, "Hey, I'm the Da Vinci Flyer, and I'm at this altitude," right? And then this guy is like, "Oh, I'm cool guy stunt plane, and I'm at this altitude," and so those two transponders will talk to each other, and based on their speeds and trajectories and everything else, the two computers will give each other direction to say, okay, hey, you go down, I go up, and we'll avoid each other.
Yeah.
And that's a resolution advisory. Before it gets to that point, you get little indicators on the screen, and I'm sure if you've been watching news about it, you get they'll talk about solid diamonds and excuse me, get solid diamonds and unfilled diamonds, give you a traffic indications. Then those diamonds turn yellow when it's getting really close, and then it'll turn red with a resolution advisory. If you're above 900 feet, which is where the hard limit is right now. So I think we can do better with that. I think we can use the technology better with existing technology, just maybe improve the software. But who knows? Maybe it's something I can work on. It's not a human factors thing. I'm probably not going to write any papers on it, but who knows?
All right. Well, I guess we talked to everybody's ear off about that. Just again, flying is still extremely safe. Don't sweat it. This was just a series of unfortunate events.
Exactly. It is. Flying is safe.
And that's that. So we're still on your week, by the way. Did you have anything else to talk about?
No, that was it. Aviation stuff was the last bit of my week. But did you see the? I think I posted it on our Facebook group, but the video of the Lego Infinity Cube.
I don't think I saw that.
So that fidget thing is like an Infinity Cube. Have you ever seen that?
I think so.
So it goes it's like this, and you fold it. It goes like that. Then it kind of unfolds like that, goes like that, folds
Oh,
in again, it goes like that.
okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I can
So-
see how you could really pass some time just fidgeting with that thing.
Yeah. So I actually have metal ones of these that are like really good. They're real smooth. But I found a video where the kid was making one with Lego, and I posted it in the thing, which prompted a whole Lego discussion within the group. And I think Dragon Buddy actually went out and got himself some more bench stock of Legos because he was said he was running a little low. So yeah, so I thought I didn't have enough hinges, but I went into my loose stuff, and yeah, I had enough hinges to make this thing. So yeah, it's a Lego. I think they're called Infinity Cubes. I don't know.
It seems pretty simple. Like, was it a pretty quick build?
Yeah, honestly, it's not huge, and it's not that complicated. It's just a matter of like knowing what sequence for the hinges.
Oh yeah.
Which it's 1x2 plates with and you need to have the high basically it's a plate with a rise on the back, a riser plate on the back.
Yeah.
That you're stacking against. But yeah, it's like a 3-minute video, and it's really not that complicated, but it's yeah. So has two things that I can appreciate, has Lego and also fidgeting.
Yep.
So I got that in spades. But yeah, that's it for my week.
Alrighty. Well, I guess it's time to move on to the main topic. Do you have any need for a break or anything before we do this?
I am okay, I think.
All right. So you had also mentioned before we do this, watching the trailer before we start the movie discussion.
Yeah, excuse me. Hang on. Yeah, I think going forward, it'd be fun to watch the trailer for whatever movie that we're going to kind of review
Yeah.
before we start. Just as like a baseline, like, okay, here's the movie.
Yeah, get people familiar. So
Yeah.
So in case they haven't watched it, getting up to this, then they can at least see the trailer. So let's do this. Hopefully, if we get hit with any kind of copyright stuff, guys, I think we're still just going to continue on with the pod. We just won't be visible by you. Sorry.
I think we'll be fine.
And here we go.
The most brilliant commander in the Soviet Navy.
Ramey has trained most of their officer corps. He's nearly a legend in the submarine community.
The most deadly submarine ever built.
This thing could park a couple of 100 warheads off Washington. Nobody'd know a thing about it until it was all over.
And once more, we play our dangerous game with our old adversaries, the American Navy.
His plan is a mystery.
A man with your responsibilities reading about the end of the world.
Apparently, he has suffered a kind of nervous breakdown in which he announced his intention to fire his missiles on the United States.
We want us to help you hunt him down, kill him.
Open the outer doors, firing point procedures. We sail into history.
I'm gonna blow him right to Mars.
Ramius might be trying to defect.
You're just an analyst. What can you possibly know what goes on in this mind?
I'll give you 3 days to prove your theory correct.
I am not field personnel. I am only an analyst.
You're perfect.
I'm expendable. He's defecting.
You willing to bet your life on that?
From the best-selling novel by Tom Clancy. From the director of Die Hard.
Give this man a chance.
My orders are specific. Battle stations.
Sean Connery, Alec Baldwin, James Earl Jones, Scott Glenn, Sam Neill. The Hunt for Red October.
The Hunt
Damn.
for Red October.
I'm going to the movies.
Is that how trailers used to be?
Oh yeah. And, watching that now after having watched the movie, I'm like, you kind of gave away a little too much, I think.
Yeah.
Now, I know audiences back in 1990 weren't as big on spoilers and everything else as they are today, but,
Well, it's based on a book that was written in 1984.
Right.
So I guess spoilers aren't really a thing.
Sure.
So, but yeah, I agree with you. There, like looking at that trailer, there is so much like of the action it is giving you in the trailer. It's like, why, save some for the movie, bro.
Yeah, considering there's not that much action in the movie,
right?
Gotta.
It's a lot of Scottish accented Russian.
Yes, but he's Lithuanian. Don't forget.
He's Venetia Pazolsta. Shit. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, Hunt for Red October. It's turning 35 here in.
I'm 37.
Right.
Here in about a month and change. No, less than a month. March 2nd.
March. Yeah. Smarch.
Yeah.
That was Smarch weather.
Indeed. And so this was a movie that I had never seen before. For some reason, the Tom Clancy type movies, they never really struck a chord with me. And you would think because of like all my military experience that it would have, but no, I haven't seen this. I haven't, before we started this, I hadn't seen this. I still haven't seen like the Patriot Games and the whatever the other one was that had Harrison Ford in them.
Right.
And I haven't seen any of this new one, this new Jack Ryan. Is it a series or is it a movie?
It's a series.
Okay. But yeah, I haven't seen any of this stuff. But after watching The Hunt for Red October, I'm like, oh, maybe I should give these a look.
Okay. Before we get all right. Let me temper your expectations for other movies. There's going to be some winners and there's going to be some losers.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Even with the Harrison Ford ones?
So right from the jump, I'm going to tell you that there's the Harrison Ford Jack Ryan, to me, is the Jack Ryan from the novelizations.
Mm-hmm.
This Alec Baldwin Jack Ryan is fine for this movie.
Right.
You have to understand that this movie is based on a novel by Tom Clancy, and it says this right in the beginning, right? It's based on it. How we get to certain plot points is not in any way, shape, or form the same as the book.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah. So things like how much Jack Ryan's actually involved in the plan to what they're going to do with the sub, this sinking of the submarine, like the plot is so much more detailed. They take another an older missile submarine that the Americans had, and they actually sink that.
Okay. So it wasn't a Russian sub?
Well, but the Alpha still gets sunk, so they have like there's stuff that they do. Like case in point, and something I think would have benefited in the movie, but you just don't have the time for it. Right,
because the movie's already 2 hours and change.
Yeah, it felt long when I rewatched it today, although I was in under the blanket on the couch in sick mode. But
yeah.
What they did was they got on the Red October a lot sooner than what they did for this.
Oh yeah, because it was towards the end when they
yeah. So if you're listening to the audiobook, they get on the Red October, you still have about 3.5 hours left of the book.
Mm.
It's a 22-hour long book. It's a decently long read. And again, I get it. There's detail work that you're just not going to be able to squeeze into the movie. But one of the things they did is they got American officers on board on board the sub, and they took a instrument from the Red October, so that the plan was when they sink. We're jumping way ahead, but I wanted to get this out.
Yeah.
Just an example of the difference. They take that instrumentation out, and then when they sink the other sub, they have that instrument. They have Russian officers in the DSRV that goes to find that submarine wreckage, and then they pick up the Red October's depth gauge. It'd be like, oh, it was definitely Red October. See, there's the depth gauge from it. And like, so the statecraft that had to happen to fool the Russians was much more intricate. The involvement of the CIA had more layers to it, because it had the director of the CIA. There was a spy that had been compromised. That was a huge element of it, and they had the president much more involved in it. Whereas here, you only get the national security advisor, because I guess you're not going to get Ronald Reagan in 1990 to do this movie.
No. So
I started it with temporary expectations for the other movies. This movie, out of all of them, I think is probably the best popcorn movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the best. I don't know. It's tough. Patriot Games is probably the best popcorn movie, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it's the movie, for as good as the movie is and how not close to the book it is, it's still good. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because you can have a good movie based on a novel where you take all the liberties with the novel and still make a good movie out of it.
Yeah.
You got to do it
this,
right.
This is an all-star fucking cast, right? They have, like Helmet Fire's bringing up it.
Well, yeah, I didn't want to talk about like everybody who's in this until we get to like going through the movie itself. Because
okay, yeah. I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead.
Yeah. Because I have some notes on that.
Go. You're the organized one. My brain's everywhere right now.
Right. So, well, you didn't mention like when you think you first saw it or how many times you've seen it.
The first time I saw it was a rental. I didn't see it in theater. Like I said, I was a freshman in high school when it came out. So I saw it when it first came out on VHS. That's when I first saw it. And subsequently, it was one of those movies when it came out on DVD. I've had it on DVD ever since. It was in the Sacred Jedi binder of movies that flew with me all around the world.
Sacred Jedi pops.
And it's just been one of those movies where it's one of those popcorn movies that I'm like, okay, I know all of the ups and downs of this movie, so I don't have to have an emotional involvement with it. I can just watch it.
Right.
Excuse me, which is what you need sometimes. You need to have a movie like that. And it was also we'll talk about that when we get to the cast.
All right. I just wanted to bring up the director, John Tiernan, who directed this. He actually has some pretty good credits to his name, though he stopped making movies in 2003. I don't know if he died or what, but he made the original Predator. He did the original Die Hard, Hunt for Red October. So that's bang, bang, bang right there.
Right.
Between 1987 and 1990. Those are three bangers right there.
All you do is win, 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 no matter what.
Well, then he did Last Action Hero, which, was a box office flop from what I understand.
I mean...
But I know a lot of people like that too. And then he did Die Hard with a Vengeance, which is, by the way, my favorite of the Die Hard movies. That's the third one with Samuel L. Jackson. Is that the one with
No.
Where they're they're in New York and he's doing all these Simon Says things, and he's basically making them go on a scavenger hunt.
Yes. Oh, that one. Yeah. That is. Was it the second one's the one on with the airplane, right? Where he's on the fucking runway? The airplane?
Yeah, that was number 2. Which that wasn't bad, but
yeah.
I liked the first
Sidebar.
and the third.
Sidebar. So while we were in DC in the hotel, we were watching I think it was HBO was doing Batman, like a Batman marathon.
Mm-hmm.
So it started with Michael Keaton Batman.
Okay.
Right? Classic. Which this reminded me of right here because one of my eBay purchases was an unfinished Batmobile here. Dude,
looks nice.
The thought that goes into some of this shit, right? So here's the flames coming out of the back, right?
Mm-hmm.
You twist the flame, it moves the wheels, or when the wheels are moving, the flame twists around.
Yeah.
Right. And you know that when he's pulling up to shoot, like, is that the first one or second one? I can't remember. Anyway, we get the machine guns out. And the machine guns pop out. I don't know. It's a really good looking rendition of the thing. And then here's the man. There he is.
I'm Batman. The Dark Knight.
Well, I mean, this is Michael Keaton Batman.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, they had it on in the hotel, and penguins
with rocket ships.
Right. I'm getting there.
That was Dave's lovely wife Kathy, who was chiming in a little bit.
So yeah, we're watching it, and we got to the next movie with Danny DeVito, right?
Yep.
Is that Begins? Batman Begins?
No, that was Batman Returns.
That one. I'm concerned where there's.
I had a feeling something like that was going to come up, and you were going to start searching for the plates.
Well, I don't want to run over him with my chair.
Right.
Anyway, so yeah, we're watching it, and first of all, they had live penguins all over that fucking movie.
Were they live penguins? Like I
Dude,
couldn't tell sometimes.
There was over 60 live penguins.
Oh no shit!
In that they had like 30 animatronic ones too.
Okay,
but
because a lot of them looked animatronic to me.
The ones that you see them where like they're carrying Danny DeVito's body into the water and all that shit. Those were like, kind of the puppet ones.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of them you see where they just got fucking cardboard tube fucking rockets and they're paddling around and shit.
Mm-hmm.
Those were actual penguins.
Oh, no shit.
Like, it's fucking bonkers. But anyway, the Die Hard bit makes me think about the fact that is a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
That movie takes place over Christmas. I mean, the entire theme of the entire movie is Christmas.
Yep. 100%.
So, and I don't think we talk about that movie when we're talking about Christmas movies.
No.
I can't remember ever being brought up.
Even the Danny Elfman score for that one has a Christmas sound to it. It's still Danny Elfman, it's still the Batman soundtrack, but it's got a lot of Christmassy sound to it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think low key, when we start having this conversation, way further down the line, we need to make sure we're bringing this up and giving that movie its due for representing Christmas movies.
Hashtag Batman Returns is a Christmas movie.
That's right.
Spread it around.
That's right. So anyway, what were we talking about?
I forgot what we were talking about. We were talking about the director and what he had done, and we were talking about Die Hard.
He did Die Hard, and then we got to Christmas movies, and then I talked about Batman and penguins with rockets strapped to their back.
Yep. And then the guy who was the cinematographer on this was Jan de Bont, which for people who may recognize the name but aren't sure who he is, he's the guy who directed the Speed movies and Twister. So he had some of these, mid-90s disaster-esque movies.
Cows.
Yeah, exactly. I like the original Twister. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
It was fine.
Yeah. So anyway, it just goes. It's more good guys with good backgrounds and good. What's the thing I'm thinking of? Good
Resumes.
Yeah, good resumes. Who are making this movie? So, it had a budget of $30 million back in 1990, which probably was a lot, and it made $200 million at the box office. So
it did well.
Yeah, and besides that, I just have my notes on the movie itself.
Excuse me.
Yeah. So if you're ready to get into the movie itself.
Yeah, we're going to talk about. We talked about the director and the cinematographer, but talk about the fact that we got motherfucking James Earl Jones in this thing.
Oh yeah. Well, so that's part of my notes is like every few lines, it seems like there's a new person in him, like James Earl Jones or Sam Neill, you know? So yeah, as we go through, I'll tell you when I had all these moments. And yeah, we started off with Sean Connery and Sam Neill kind of starting us off with the movie, talking about how it's cold and blah, blah, blah. But they're, on that initial voyage of the Red October, and they're getting it started. This is them back in Russia.
Right.
I think.
Yeah, they're pulling out of
took off from
the barn in Polyarny.
Yeah. And
which is in that northern area. Like, so you think of that Arctic area, like people forget, like above the map there, right?
Mm-hmm.
The sea goes up and over. So
back and to the left.
So back there is where the Russians had all those submarine pens and everything. So when they would come out and do exercises and shit, it would be all in here in the northern Atlantic.
Yeah. So yeah, it showed them taking off. Then we go over to Jack Ryan himself, played by Alec Baldwin in this one, which I gotta say, I kind of went into this thinking that this guy was like a badass because of all the commercials I'd seen for the other movies and for this Jack Ryan series and all that. I'm thinking this guy is going to be like a total fucking just, hotshot badass guy. And he's kind of a pussy in this movie.
So something that you need to know about Jack Ryan, like the Jack Ryan going forward, as opposed to this Jack Ryan, prior to so this was the first of the movies that comes out, but chronologically, this isn't the first thing that happens with Jack Ryan in it.
Oh,
to cut it really short without getting into too much detail, but think the movie Patriot Games is he basically stops a terrorist from killing one of the Prince of England.
Okay.
Right? And by doing that,
let's be honest, no big loss.
But by doing that, he is also targeted. And again, this is in the late 80s, when the relationship with the United States and these are terrorists from Northern Ireland, and there's all this back and forth. That happens, and before this. So, and he basically, he shoots the terrorists, to prevent all this stuff from happening. Like, it's, this huge climax, and basically he saves the life, this guy's life. And by doing that, he has this relationship with the Brits, that has direct effect on what happens in the book coming into this book, because he's basically friends with the admiral that is on one of the ships that they're staging off of for what they do to recover the Red October. So the CIA, the reason he's in London is because of that relationship. That's why Jack Ryan is in London.
Okay.
Like they're utilizing those contacts, because he is just an analyst.
Right.
It's a Marine officer who did get injured whatever. But the thing that they don't talk about in the movie is that, yes, he had this, he's already like kind of shown that he is the hero. He is the, what do you call that? The guy who doesn't want to be the hero.
Anti-hero?
He ends up being the hero in all these situations, and he really doesn't want to be.
Ah, gotcha.
But if he's put in that situation, then he's that guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, the representation of Jack Ryan that you have here, again, reluctant. Thank you, the reluctant hero. The Jack Ryan you're getting here is not only doesn't have that background, but he also is taking on a lot of the storytelling.
Mhm.
Like he is now the plot advancement of a lot of this movie, that the book has pages and pages and other characters involved in.
Okay.
So
now,
take that
speaking
for
of
what it is.
yeah, speaking of him being in London, so apparently he's married or is in a relationship with a local, because his wife, girlfriend, whoever that person was, played by Gates McFadden from Star Trek: The Next Generation, Dr. Beverly Crusher.
Yeah, Bronco Fett brought that up. Yeah, Dr.
Yep.
Crusher shows up.
So right there in my notes, Gates McFadden, woo!
Which he's not married to a local. He is married to, yeah.
So
she is an eye surgeon, and she is from, New England.
But was that supposed to be his
Yes.
significant other in the movie?
Yes, but again, you're not getting this version of Jack Ryan isn't the textbook Jack Ryan. This is the plot device Jack Ryan.
Yeah.
So Caroline that you're getting here is not.
Okay. And she only has one line. You see her one time, very briefly, one line, and then done. And I'm like, they brought her in just for that, just for one line. It makes me kind of wonder if they had more footage between the two of them that they had to cut, because that whole scene seemed very abrupt. But again, we're talking a 2+ hour movie. I'm sure that they felt like they had to keep chopping bits and pieces off.
Yeah, and there was more about him leaving from England in the book, so they probably were like, okay, let's start it here, and they probably wrote a bunch of stuff, and like you said, they probably had to cut a lot of it just for time.
Yep. So then he's on an airplane. He tells the lady that he can't sleep on airplanes. We'll circle back to that as we get to the end. And I guess he's a writer for the CIA. Apparently he writes books. Is that
so he's a teacher. For purposes of this movie, he's basically a history teacher teaching at the Naval Academy.
Okay.
In the real Jack Ryan, the one that basically fought off terrorists before the Hunt for October thing happens, he actually, after the Marines, he had the med board out because the fucking chopper crash and everything else. So he finished the Naval Academy, but then he got into like finance and made some money, but didn't like it. So then he left that and went and started teaching at the Naval Academy, and then kind of this other stuff he fell into it. There's more story than that.
Sure, yeah.
But
I love the soundtrack at this point, because we go back to the Russians, and it's it's kind of like a Russian march song going on as the background music is playing and everything else, and it was kind of catchy.
Oh, that's the Russian national anthem.
Oh, was that what they were singing?
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, no.
So
it was a cool part of the soundtrack.
They're saying a goodbye to the motherland with the Rodinia, Das Svidaniya, Rodinia. That's goodbye to the Rodinia is the motherland. So here's the other thing. Like, so we've talked like the little bit of Russian that's in here.
Mm-hmm.
Young Dave, that is like, oh, this little bit of Russian is interesting. The stuff that I've like kind of picked up over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I started to like really try and learn Russian when I got first in the military, and like listening to these guys talk, I'm like, there's one guy that like actually is legit speaking Russian, and it's the guy like when they're the DSRV lands on the boat and they're coming down the ladder.
Uh-huh.
And the guy's just, rapid fire speaking Russian at them, and you obviously don't know what he's saying.
Yeah.
That guy's speaking Russian.
So wait, you're saying everything else that they were saying was all gibberish?
It's not gibberish. It's not gibberish. It's just very like oversimplified Russian words. It'd be like if you were taking out your Russian phrase book and going pointing at words.
Okay.
It's not real sentence structure.
So like Jason, go to store to buy soda.
Really? What was that motion, Jason? Right. Gonna shake weight some soda right into your face.
So like if a Russian was watching this, they'd be like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, and that's just over the years trying to like catch up with it, and even watching it today, I was just like, oh god. But I mean, it's a nice touch, but again, you're getting the Scottish accented attempt.
Yep.
At speaking Russian
from the Lithuanian Russian.
Right.
Yeah. So then we go back to
which isn't that weird. Honestly, like you think about what the Soviet Union was,
mm-hmm.
The Soviet Union had the Lithuanians and, the Baltic states were all included in the Soviet Union. But something that is emphasized in the book, and I think was an education for some people if they didn't already know it, was the class system in the Soviet Union. If you were not a native-born Russian, then how you advanced in that class society, like you weren't seen as basically a pure blood, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
So by being Lithuanian and the fact that he got to the place that he got to made his station that much higher.
Okay.
Right. Being a captain on the submarine meant that he actually had he had a dacha, he had a like a summer home.
Okay.
Like, so he would have access to a vehicle, like, which a lot of Russians did not have. They didn't have cars. They took public transportation anywhere. That's why the train system is so big in Russia, and especially in Moscow, because they didn't have cars.
Okay.
The regular Soviet citizen didn't have access to like have a car. Only the upper class had that. So he had access to more of these things, and what you come to. Well, I'll save that for the next bit, because that'll be important for the next thing that comes up in the plot.
All right. So he comes in, and what do you know? It James Earl Jones. Woo!
That's right.
So,
backing up one second,
Okay.
something I wanted to bring up watching it today. Like, so when you're listening to the Russian anthem, and they're kind of panning through Jack Ryan's his library.
Yeah.
Something to note, and it's something I think it cemented me into this movie as something as like, oh, I have this just had a connection to it.
Mm-hmm.
The like Proceedings magazine and the Jane's ships, like, so back before the internet, if you really wanted to know, like, identify ships, identify airplanes, or anything else, Jane's was the resource for that.
Right.
I don't know if you remember ever seeing any of those.
Oh yeah.
So the fact that you see the Janes and then you have Proceedings. Proceedings magazine is kind of like it's the Navy's version of the Air Force Times, just more as a magazine.
Okay.
And my dad got it. So we got Proceedings magazine every month or whatever. So the fact that seeing them not kind of laying around and seeing the copies, because the copies that he had and were on display there, we had those in the house laying around. So it was like this kind of direct connection that I thought was really, for me as a kid, I thought it was cool. Just having that Navy connection like that.
That's right.
And understanding it. Like it's a nuance to the movie that just made it better.
Yeah. And Jack gets in there, he meets up with James Earl Jones, gives him the intel about Red October, basically some pictures from it, I guess, when it was on the assembly line.
No, Jack brings those.
That's what I said, right?
Oh,
yeah. So Jack brings them to show to James Earl Jones.
Right.
And they have these special doors on them that they can't figure out what they are. They're not like missile bays. So that's kind of the big mystery now. Like, what is the deal with the sub? Why do they have these mysterious doors on them? Which sends Jack to his next location.
Yep, to see Skip.
Yeah. And then we flip over to another U.S. sub that was a Los Angeles class sub.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the name of it.
This is the Dallas.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And we get a Spaceballs like overhead shot of it coming into the screen, like the dude, which I thought was hilarious. Now, real quick sidebar: when you rewatched it this time, how did you watch it? Did you watch it on Paramount Plus, which is where I saw it?
No, I watched it. I have it on my Apple iTunes library.
Okay. Because I watched it on Paramount Plus thinking it would be a decently upscaled HD movie, and it really wasn't.
Mm-mm.
It kind of looked like shit.
I don't think they ever remastered this thing.
No.
I think it's been in the can this way, and this is just kind of how it is.
Yeah, so it's one of those movies that's really old, and it actually looks bad on an HD TV sometimes. Like, and it didn't look bad. It's just mostly the underwater scenes. Like, I couldn't fucking tell anything that was going on. It was very hard to see like what was going on in those underwater scenes.
Yeah, because it probably would be hard to see it regardless.
Yeah, I just saw a lot of grainy pixels and yeah, it was odd. But anyway, that shouldn't take you away from actually wanting to watch this movie, by the way.
On a 27-inch television when we were younger watching it, you could never known the difference.
Right. And this sub, they've got this one what are the guys? They're not radio operators. The guys that work the sonar and listen to basically the sounds of the ocean.
Sonarmen.
Mm-hmm. All right, we'll call him that. But yeah, they had this one particular guy who seems like he's super wise in the ways of sonar.
Mm-hmm.
And they come up on Red October. They realize that that it's a Russian ship, so they're starting to trail it. Now, so far, I'm following everything pretty well. They start getting into some very specifics with the submarines and the tactics and the way they can maneuver, and even going into these like trenches in the water. How accurate is a lot of this submarine talk that we get in the movie and what we see on screen? Because I'm sitting there wondering, like, could this all just be bullshit? Like, this is like if somebody made a movie about airplanes and you and I are like, oh, you can't fucking do that. Oh, this is fucking stupid. I wonder if somebody who's familiar with subs would think the same thing about this.
I mean, I'd have to ask my cousin specifically about like stuff with the 688s, the Los Angeles class. I can tell you that the Los Angeles class attack submarines were like the top of the line, especially during those times. Mm-hmm. They were the quietest things in the water.
Okay.
At that point, and they could move. So, in generalities, the Russian boats had made way more noise. Like alphas were real fast and maneuverable. Okay, we see that in the movie, how he's kind of like the alphas out turning the other boats. The alphas were known for that, but they were also known as being very, very loud. Their plant noise was especially loud. So, and the sonarmen, they'd actually identify these boats by their nuclear plant noise. So they could actually tell you which boat is which by the noise that their engine is making, basically.
Jeez.
So they'd be able to say, okay, that's this boat. And that's when they're tracking and they say this is Typhoon 7. That's okay. We have 6 Typhoons in the database, and then this is a new one. So bloop, they go and there's okay. This is Typhoon 7 because it's a new plant. They haven't got a recording for that yet.
Yeah, and a lot of this I didn't really pick up on the first viewing. Like after I watched it the first time, I'm like, okay, that was all right. And then I watched it the second time this morning to get ready for the show, and a lot of this made a hell of a lot more sense watching it the second time, and I appreciated it a lot more.
Yeah, like going to Periscope Death for the, getting ELFs and things like that. Some of that is a little bit off. You don't have to go fully to the surface to get an ELF. You're putting antennas up when you go to Periscope Death, but 65 to 55 feet for Periscope depth and things like that. This is all relatively accurate, and Tom Clancy was known for the accuracy of his books. I mean, the going story with Clancy is he'll write about something and then the Navy will be like, hey, where are you getting your information? Right.
Right.
Because he might be writing about something that's like, hey, you shouldn't know that. He's like, well, I just made that up. Didn't I? And they're like, no, you didn't.
Like we're building that as we speak.
Right. So as far as that stuff goes, and the maneuvering in the trenches and the Laurentian Abyss and things like that. I mean, the stuff exists. It's all reality. How the Russians navigate the trench.
Yeah, doing that old school vectoring and.
Yeah, there's more. Well, there's way more to it than that.
Okay.
They actually have specialized INS that that drives the boat for that.
Because I'm watching this thinking, God, they're just going off of the word of this fucking navigator.
Yeah.
When to turn and where, and because you can't see shit in a submarine. There's no fucking viewports.
Right.
So you're really just going off of your instruments.
And you wouldn't be able to see shit anyway because you're 900 meters down or however deep they were.
Yeah. God, as an airplane guy, that just skeeves me out, man. Just flying in that thing, not being able to see the outside and know anything that's fucking going on around you.
Dude, my cousin has told me some fucking stories, man, about being in the sub, and I don't want anything. I wouldn't anything to do with it at all. Fuck all that.
Yeah, I worked with this retired Navy guy, and he mentioned the one time he was on a sub, how small it was, like how there's so little space on one of those. And I'm sitting here thinking, as I'm watching like all of these guys like smoking like chimneys in this thing, I'm like, oh God, man, these things must fucking stink. The air must barely be fucking breathable.
Especially in like the Russian versions of it.
Yeah, yeah. But even the Americans were doing it some.
Yeah, smoking lamp gets lit at certain times.
Right. So yeah, we go through all of that. We go back to the Russians, and the political advisor shows up as he's waiting for Sean Connery in his office. And from here, we have this great transition because at this point they're still speaking Russian and we're getting English subtitles. We have this moment where it kind of zooms in on the guy's mouth as he's talking, the political advisor, and his name's Putin, by the way. and they zoom in on his mouth as he's talking Russian. And then all of a sudden, boom, his next sentence is in English, goes back out, and now they're all speaking English. We're just to assume that they're still speaking Russian to each other, but it makes it
Right.
easier on the audience.
Right.
So now we don't have to read.
Yep. And Sean Connery doesn't have to obliterate an attempted Russian.
Right. But it was a very clever way to make that transition from Russian to English, which
No, I agree.
appreciate.
That was well done.
So, sidebar before this next part. Saturday night. Yeah, Saturday night I'm sitting around kind of bored, right? I'm not doing anything. I'm like, what the fuck am I going to do with my time? And I'm clicking through some of the streaming services that we have, and I landed on fucking Oppenheimer. I'm like, oh, Oppenheimer. You know, I've seen that at least twice now, between when we saw it in theaters, and then I don't remember if I saw it on home video when it came out, but I'm like, fuck it, I'll put this on for a minute. I'll just watch a few minutes of it. You know,
And
2.5 hours later.
right.
Yeah, so I started watching it, and I just stayed to the very fucking end for no reason whatsoever. Just like,
I need to watch it again. I'd like to.
it's a great fucking movie.
Yeah.
And
ironically, like, not much of a sidebar, because we get a line that Oppenheimer uses.
and that's why I mentioned it, because one of the lines that Sean Connery makes is the "I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Right.
You know, and he mentions Oppenheimer without actually saying his name.
Right.
And I just thought that was kind of funny because I just watched Oppenheimer the day before.
And in 1990, like, that really wasn't, like, I didn't understand that line or what.
Oh
that
yeah,
even meant.
if I'd seen this when it came out in 90, I'd have been completely oblivious. Like, what the fuck are they talking about?
Like, oh, there must have been some fucking he says it's an ancient text or whatever. It must have came from Sun Tzu or whatever.
Yeah.
So the book is, he says it's his wife's or whatever.
Yeah, because his wife's been dead.
Right. So this is where I think they kind of do a disservice for Ramius's backstory.
Yeah, because we didn't really get much information about it and about her.
Yeah, so the reason that Ramius does this, right? It's not just because his wife died.
Right.
Right?
His wife wants to go fishing.
His wife died because the Russians, the Soviet, I should say, the Soviet system killed her. And so what happened was she got I forget what actually the sickness was, but she got rushed to the hospital, and the surgeon, I think it was an appendectomy. I think I'd have to look it up again, but basically she needed surgery. The surgeon that came in, now again, remember I said he's kind of in this like upper tier because he's the captain of in the fleet, the submarine fleet. So he's in this like upper social tier.
Mm-hmm.
And oh, by the way, Ramius's father was also big in the within the Politburo, right?
Okay.
He was think almost like a regional like Politburo member, where he was a hero of Lenin, blah 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 blah. Right. So Ramius came from, like, even though they were Lithuanian, this is how Ramius also was elevated to this because of his father.
Okay.
Whatever. So anyway, they had access to the best doctors that the Soviets had. The problem was that this doctor that showed up was drunk.
Oh, jeez.
And they botched the operation, and she still would have lived if they had decent antibiotics, but the Soviet antibiotics were had a third of the efficacy that the stuff that came out of the West. So they she got the shit antibiotics, had a botched surgery, and so she ends up dying because of the Soviet state.
Right.
And that wasn't like the year before. That was it was something that had happened. Like, they couldn't have children, so what they would do is when he was in these other submarines, and they'd basically have these other naval officers underneath them, and they would bring them in and almost like sons, and raise them like family. And if they didn't like them, then they would be like, okay, you didn't buy into like our leadership or what we're trying to do, like Ramius and his wife.
Yeah.
But the people that were close to him were these officers that he ends up defecting with in Red October. So it's not, the reason I say all this is because what you're led to believe in the movie is that it's just the fact that, oh, hey, they want to defect to the West and be with the big tittied fucking the blondes and and go party in the West and go to Montana and raise rabbits and shit like that.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's a much deeper emotional connection because of how Ramius's wife died and how close these officers were to Ramius and his wife. And that's why he could get this corps of officers to go with him.
Okay. Because they kind of briefly mentioned that he must have had close ties with a lot of these officers to defect with him.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they never mentioned how his wife died, anything like that.
Yeah.
So,
which I think that part of it would have had some benefit in the story.
Sure.
Just to tell everybody, like, this is just his wife dying wasn't enough.
Yeah.
To me, to effectively tell why Ramius is doing this.
Mm-hmm. And again, I am sure that was a scene that they filmed that they had to cut.
Yeah, perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah. I'd like to find out how much of this movie was actually trimmed to make the final cut.
There must be an X-ray version of it or something. Like, you watch on Amazon, it has all the extra stuff that comes up.
Yeah. We'll look into this. And yeah, this is where they mentioned the wife is dead when he's still talking to the political advisor. And they open up their...
It's political officer.
I thought they said advisor.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Political
officer. Okay. Yeah. So they open up the super secret box that's got 2 spin combos, but he only does 1 spin combo and opens the safe. I'm guessing the other guy did his before he came into the room. And then they use the 2 keys to open the orders. And then this isn't or this political officer isn't part of Sean Connery's plan, so murder.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he just kills the motherfucker by slamming him into a fucking table and crushing his fucking heart or something.
Oh, it crushes his windpipe.
Oh, is that what it was? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it pretty brutal fucking way of killing this dude.
Yep. Yeah, and this dude was a complete fucking tool too. In the book, the dude was even bigger tool than he seemed in here. Like, he just seemed kind of like a buffoon.
Mm-hmm.
But Ramius, he asked like the direct question, in the movies, how we kind of ask a direct question so we can advance the plot.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason he asked the question before he killed the political officers because he didn't know. He did know that the KGB or the GRU was going to plant someone else on the boat.
Sure.
He just didn't know who it was going to be because he
Right.
wanted to account for that person so that he would be able to deal with that when the time came. But he didn't get that information from the guy. So, all right, fuck you.
Yep.
Slipped on his tea.
Yeah. So rip to the political officer. And at this point, as watching it for the first time, I'm thinking, okay, Sean Connery's a bad actor here. He's not a bad actor, but bad guy. He's a bad guy here who's going rogue and is probably going to fire his fucking missiles at the U.S. That's basically where I'm at this point in the movie.
Well,
as
shit,
I'm
if
watching
you
it
watch the trailer, yeah.
Yeah. So, because he fucking just murders this guy in cold blood. It was pretty rough. Then we switch back over to Jack Ryan, and now we've got Jeffrey Jones. Woo! We're not supposed to celebrate him anymore. But yeah, Jeffrey Jones, the guy, he was the principal in Ferris Bueller.
Oh,
yeah, he's
what did he do?
Some pedophile shit.
Oh God.
Yeah. So yeah, he another great character actor that's been in so many good 80s and 90s movies.
Yeah.
Did you ever see Howard the Duck?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, he was in that. He played the professor who was slowly turning into the alien creature.
Yeah. Don't you have some affinity for Howard the Duck?
I love that movie. It's a great movie.
Yeah.
I must have watched that thing 100 times when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm pretty
One
sure
of
we
those-
talked about that.
I had the Betamax tape. We watch it all the time.
So right here at this point when he meets up with Skip and they're in this like sub pen and they're moving stuff around for this alliteration for Skip's involvement.
Mm-hmm.
This character has exponentially more involvement in the plot in the book.
Oh, really?
Like Skip Tyler's the one that actually, if we advance, I'm going to give away the baseline of the plot in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Skip Tyler, Jack goes and talks to him, and first of all, Jack Ryan has to convince the director of the CIA and James Earl Jones to let Skip Tyler get this information.
Right.
Because
of the clearance.
Because they're desperate to find out what the fuck is going on with this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So Skip Tyler's teaching at the Naval Academy.
Mm-hmm.
And so he goes to the Naval Academy, grabs him and says, "Hey, here's some theoretical stuff. I need you to work on this." And Jack Ryan ends up like offering like his own money. Like, cause like I said, Jack Ryan made some money in the real world.
Yeah.
Doing, financial stuff, investment stuff. So they needed to run some data. They needed to build modeling to see, okay, what is this submarine actually capable of if it's this drive system?
Mm-hmm.
So Skip Tyler's the one that goes, and they get him access to the Craig computers. Basically, it's wherever Transcom is out of. At the time, it was SAC.
Oh God!
So they had Craig computers there, and so he actually was able to get time on Craig computers. Which think of the mid '80s, man. Craig computers were the machines for doing this calculations. So, but they needed to have that modeling to be able to predict what this Red October was capable of, because they couldn't determine it otherwise.
Sure.
So Jack Ryan goes, "Hey, I'm gonna, there's a $10,000 bonus in it for you if you can get this figured out."
All of this omitted from the movie, obviously.
Right. So now Skip Tyler is the guy that's actually like, okay, I'm gonna, work on this shit for Jack, and at the same time, there's a bunch of other stuff that's happening because the Red October's obviously out there in the world. Skip Tyler doesn't know this, like he's not privy to the information that the movie makes him privy to.
Mm-hmm.
He's only getting the fact that, hey, here's this thing, I need you to do some modeling on it, but you can't know the rest. Like it's like presidential secret. There's only like 8 people that know about it.
Yeah.
But then because Skip Tyler was a submarine captain and knew people, there's like all this other interaction. So I say all that to say that Skip Tyler, the character, has a much bigger role in what happens with the Red October than just,
him showing up and just immediately seeing the pictures and going, "Oh yeah, that's a caterpillar."
Right. Yeah, there's much more to it, and a lot of yeah.
But again, for the movie, they got to keep it short.
Yeah, and this isn't me shitting on it for that. I'm just saying that read the book.
Yeah.
If you want to get it a little bit deeper into the story, because again, I think that the subsequent movies that come out about Clancy, or that are from Clancy novelizations, that the Jack Ryan character is more closely based on what the books actually is than what you see here in Red October.
Yeah. No, I believe it. So yeah, he figures out it's this caterpillar drive to avoid sonar, which I guess they don't have regular radar in the water. They just have sonar. I guess.
Think about what you're saying.
Sonar. I guess sonar is kind of. Yeah. Anyway, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh yeah,
because you were thinking about how silly that statement was.
Maybe. But yeah, so the caterpillar drive is like a jet engine. That's what it was. So it was supposed to be like a jet engine for submarines, which again, I'm watching this. I'm like, is this bullshit or is this real? I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. It's probably one of those theoretical exercises where, yeah, if it was feasible, they would be doing it. But I can't imagine how much energy that will require to be able to get the water moving fast enough to actually propel something that big.
Yeah.
I don't know of it being a real thing anywhere. I'm sure it exists. I'm sure they can move certain things, and there is something to be said about not having those moving parts and not having like exposed screws to be creating cavitations in the water. But
yeah,
here's the thing, like you're still moving water. Like you're it's kind of like trying to hide the heat signature of a stealth bomber. Right? You can dissipate it a lot, but there's still heat behind it because you're still creating jet wash.
Yeah.
It's just how you dissipate it. And the idea of having something that is so quiet is so that passive sonar, just much like passive radar, like so for passive sonar, it's the, hey, if I hear the, I don't know where I've read it. It could have been in a Clancy novel, could have been something else, but like you'd be able to hear a wrench drop from like so many miles away because the water transmits sound so well. Damn. So any type of mechanical movement or anything else, like, okay, people and software are listening for fucking metal and transient sounds.
Yeah.
The important part that they talk about here, and they don't talk about it again, which is bananas, but it wasn't part of the plot for this movie, is the Sosus nets. He mentions it in his brief with Pelt, the Sosus nets, but then they don't talk about it again.
Mm-hmm.
That's like in the real world, the Sosus nets that are spread out, however they're spread out. Imagine imagine it as a fence line that's like listening all along the potential routes that you would drive a boat or a submarine towards the United States. That's a real thing. That exists.
All right. So yeah, I guess that the whole sound traveling through the water is why he could hear the singing when they were using the drive for the first time.
Yeah, that wasn't in the book, but
oh really?
Yeah.
There was also a scene later. We're kind of skipping ahead here, where Sean Connery and Sam Neill are talking. This is after we knew that they were defecting and everything, and this is the conversation where Sam Neill's like, "I want to go live in Montana, raise rabbits, blah blah blah."
Right.
As they're talking, you get one quick flash where they go back to the sonar operator, and he's listening, and it's like you get the feeling that he's listening to their conversation because of the way they cut that scene.
Yeah.
But then nothing ever came out of it.
There's no way he's listening. What he's listening for is the boat moving in the water to make the turn.
Okay.
So he's listening for changes in the water that as the boat is turning, like he can't see it obviously, right?
Yeah.
And it's all passive systems. So based on the sound, if the boat is coming around you, so you're listening for certain sounds that a boat would make if it's like making those turns.
Mm-hmm.
So what they're telling you is Jonesy, who's the sonar operator, like is attenuated enough where he's able to hear the boat making those sounds.
Okay. Yeah, because it was a weird cut that they were doing.
Yeah.
With that,
I was more taken by the idea that you could hear well enough that you'd be able to tell like it making like what it's doing.
Mm-hmm.
But I temper that with the fact that I could do that in the airplane. You know, you can hear, like I could sit here and on most days and I could tell you based on the noise around me what an airplane is doing because I know the noises that well.
Right, as far as like lowering the flaps, dropping the gear.
Right.
Coming in on final.
Reducing power, things like that. When the aircraft is actually taken off, when the thrust reversers are engaged, like, because you can hear from my house every once in a while, like you get, the TRs are loud enough where you hear them here.
Damn.
The conditions have to be just right, but that's the sound. I've been hearing that since I was a kid, and it was always one of those things. Like, again, airplane nerd since I've been able to think, but you can do it. Like if you have enough training, and Jonesy in the book also, Jonesy is like a wizard at this, like the Caltech references or whatever. Like he basically, had a master's level education and how the sonar worked, and he had to override what the computer was telling it. So anyway,
yeah,
I have to pee.
Okay, then
So
I guess we need to take a break.
We need to pause.
Can you do the thing from where you are?
Maybe. I could do this.
Okay.
And then,
all right then. Well, we're gonna take a very quick break and be right back after this quick word from our sponsors.
Colt 45, it's a dynamite taste, it's a grin, it's a groove, it's a blast. Colt 45, it's a dynamite taste, it's a win, it's a definite blast. Colt 45, loaded with dynamite taste. So grab one, down one, get yourself a round one. Colt 45, malt liquor, Colt 45, it's a dynamite taste.
I miss drinking so much. Anyway, let's see what's going on in the chat here. Yeah, I saw this helmet fire. It sucks. Sucks that we that we're doing this, but that's the way of the world for you. It's kind of the way it is, and there's not a whole lot we can do about it because not everybody's gonna stop building boats and stop shipping stuff. Stop putting all of these military vessels in the sea. So it's one of those things you just got to accept. Why is Dave? Oh, there he is. Okay. Let's see. Jennings. That was his name in Howard the Duck. Jennings. When he was turning into the space guy, and they were in the diner. That whole scene in the diner. Good shit. And he's back. Jeffrey Jones, a.k.a. Pedo Freak. Yeah. It's a shame. He'd probably be doing like the con circuit and everything if he, hadn't gotten himself in trouble.
he still alive?
As far as I know. I haven't heard of anything about him dying. But you can get rid of the Dave has to pee. And then I guess we'll resume whenever you're ready.
Yes.
All right, let's do it.
All right, am I supposed to hit something?
Yeah, this is where you play the 30 seconds.
Oh, this is where I do the thing.
And we're back. So we're gonna have to pick up the pace a little bit because we're still pretty early in the movie and we've only got a half hour left on the show. Ish. I'm sure we can run a little bit late if we needed to. But next scene after the whole Jeffrey Jones scene, we get Tim Curry. Woo! Yep. Tim Curry shows up as the doctor on the Red October. So another just icon of the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good shit. He nothing. This is the scene where they decide to go ahead and engage their stealth mode with the caterpillar thrusters. So, I'm pretty sure they knew at this point that the US sub was behind them, tracking them, and that's when they turn on the caterpillar and go blank, essentially.
No, so actually they didn't know, and that's like kind of the catch in the movie. The Dallas was in their baffles behind them.
Right.
So the Red October didn't know the Dallas was back there.
Right.
Until they turned off their conventional drive and went to the silent drive. And then suddenly, with that noise being gone, they could actually pick up the fact that the Dallas was back there.
That's right. Because
the Dallas was like, varying levels of whatever their quiet is supposed to be. Like, yeah, they were tracking the Red October, but were they ultra silent or were they just silent? Which those things are apparently real.
Ultra silent. All right.
Yeah. The quick, quiet, ultra silent, like those types of things, those are all like real things.
Yeah. And it goes dark and it leaves the folks on the US sub flabbergasted. The Dallas.
Like, where the fuck did it go?
Yeah. Next scene, we've got this very important looking Russian guy walking into his office, and he gets a letter from, Sean Connery.
Oh, Marco.
That basically says he's defecting. Now, we don't know this. We don't know what the content of the letter is at this point in the movie.
Right.
But we know it's from him.
Right. You get all this alliteration that it is from him. And again, the book, there's way more to this.
Oh, I'm sure.
There's actually a much longer delay for this letter because it actually no shit gets lost in the Soviet mail. Like,
of course.
Like it doesn't. When it gets pushed into the system, it like gets to the bottom of some pile, and then some person doesn't like see it until it's too late, and then it's like, okay, let me drop this off, and I'm like, this isn't that important. It'll wait till morning. So, like, this timeline extension happens by happenstance,
right?
And it's funny because it's sometimes that's how world powers fucking. How things can happen. It's just like, just by the luck of the draw, they had a 72-hour head start because this letter didn't fucking show up. They had no idea that this was happening until they got that letter. And then there's this whole infighting between the KGB and the GRU that's happening, and the guy that gets the letter is not Ramius's wife's uncle. They don't have this like close relationship. Fact is, everyone's really quick to write off Ramius when all this starts going down. Yeah, so that whole thing is way off from the book.
Yeah. Then Jack Ryan gets sort of forced into doing a briefing about the Red October in front of.
I thought the sequence was brilliant.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure you have too. Like you've been thrown into a couple of things where it's just like, oh hey, by the way, you're giving this briefing.
Yeah.
Like what the fuck?
Or hey, I'm gonna call on you and you're gonna
right.
give us your your honest opinion or whatever.
Sitting in some office in DC. I have no idea like who the people are I'm around. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, you're gonna give this brief. Like what? Why?
Yeah.
Why me?
And this is the point where Jack Ryan comes up with the theory that he's defecting because it happened to fall on the 1-year anniversary of his wife's death. And he's like, that you son of a bitch.
Right. So this briefing that happens with Jeffrey Pelt actually in the book happens with the president. So how it happens coming out of this briefing, the president actually asks Jack to do this, like to get further involved. And so it's like the president being at this briefing and then like things that are happening with there's a judge that's the director of the CIA, and with the judge and James Earl Jones, basically with the president being like, okay, we have plans for Jack. Like we see him going places like within the directorate, and this is moving him a little fast. However, we need him to do this. So it's much more cloak and dagger than just like seemingly happenstance. Because like you said, like it seems like he's kind of thrown into this and kind of being a pussy about it.
Yeah.
Whereas in the actual Jack Ryan is much more like, again, reluctant fucking hero.
Yep. So yeah, he comes up with the theory. He puts a general in his place during this whole thing, and that caused a little bit of a stir. But it was good.
How fucking fun is that?
Yeah, because he's not a military guy,
I know how fun it is to do it to fucking lieutenant colonels.
Mm-hmm.
That's as ballsy as I've ever gotten as a uniformed service member is lieutenant colonels.
Yeah. And then the next two scenes have more actors pop up that I was surprised to see. The first one was Stellan Skarsgård, which even 5 years ago, I would have had no idea who this fucking guy was. But now we know he's fucking Luthen from Andor, and he's the Baron Harkonnen from the fucking Dune movies.
Yeah.
Long before he got that super raspy voice.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't really think about that.
Yeah, he's the sub-captain of another Russian sub that gets involved.
Yeah, the Alpha.
Yeah. And basically he gets orders like, okay, we're going to have to kill homeboy.
Right. And what he's saying is like, oh shit, these orders are so old, like, because he was basically the mission, the original mission orders were for him and Red October, his boat in Red October, to kind of play tag and test out the drive.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's what he did. He went up there and was hiding and waiting for Red October to show up so that he could fucking fight him.
Right.
Well, while he was on the bottom of the ocean, he wasn't getting any of the message traffic. So, when he finally came up for air, figuratively,
right.
he got the message traffic, was like, fuck, and so he goes screaming down there.
Yep. And then the next scene, it's Jack Ryan in a helicopter, or no, not a helicopter, a C
E2C Hawkeye.
Yeah. Getting the shit kicked out of him, turbulence wise.
Right.
And the guy who's talking to him, looks like the flight engineer, is Rick Ducommun, I think is his name. He's the guy he's another character actor. He was in the fucking Burbs. He was in Groundhog Day. He was in Spaceballs, you know, just another fucking familiar face from all these 80s and 90s movies that we love.
And anytime I was in turbulence in the jet, I thought about this scene.
Oh, no shit.
Right. This to me is probably, if you want to have a textbook definition of what severe turbulence is, like to show people,
yeah,
this is what you show them.
Mm-hmm.
Like how much they're fucking getting thrown around. Like, hey, do you want to, well, not severe. It's probably severe. I don't know. I was just thinking, man, it's probably closer to moderate, but
moderate doesn't kick you around like that.
Well, it shouldn't,
for the most part. Right?
For the most part. But we're speaking as aviators who have been through it. We're like, oh well, but did we die? You know, type thing.
Right.
We've definitely been through severe. You know, you fucking hit the engines to continuous and fucking, you know, keep going. But anytime I think I'm in that kind of turbulence, I'm like referring to this scene.
Okay.
Not just any puke, the industrial size puke. Right?
You want a bite?
Yeah, want a bite?
Shoves that Snickers bar in his face.
Right. Next time Jack write a memo. Like, but that's the mentality too. It's like, oh, whenever I'm in turbulence and I'm just like, oh my God, this is the fucking worst ever. I have to, you think about that. It's like, yeah, this is the worst ever. But, you know, you just got to ride it out because it'll be over eventually, one way or the other.
Yeah,
so
it could always be worse.
Yeah, just say, fuck it, and let's just go.
Yeah.
I mean, and yes, it could always be worse. And then it's been worse. And you're like, holy fuck, I can't believe that was worse than that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to go any worse than that. Like Helmet Fire's talking about. Mountain wave turbulence. I don't know if you've ever experienced the mountain wave turbulence, but holy fuck, dude.
Maybe a couple of times, but I've seen plenty of videos about it.
Fucking hell. Anyway. Yeah.
So, yep. And
I love this scene though. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, it was good. Then we get to the scene where they're navigating through the canyons under the ocean, which again, the way they're showing it on this is like it's strictly being done by pen and paper. This guy using his fucking compasses and everything to draw the lines through the canyon that they need to follow. I mean, I'd be puckered as a motherfucker during this.
They certainly, like, all right. So the captain comes in, and the whole point of this is to alliterate how Ramius has, you know, he is the fucking man.
Mm-hmm.
So when he comes to sit down, he orders them to go faster. The speeds they're talking about, not possible.
No,
like they're not in a situation where they're going to go 26 knots with that drive system.
Right.
I don't think that would be a thing.
So what do you think the max speed of a sub would be?
I don't know. I think again, this is just out of a portion of my brain that I don't know how the information got there, but I want to say that the alpha, which is the fastest, is like 40 knots.
Okay.
You're talking about. And that's at like 110% reactor speed. Like really pounding away. Like 30 knots in a submarine is fucking hauling.
Yeah.
But anyway, you get past that and realize that this is the whole point of this is to show that like Ramius is just a badass. And, you know, he's just coming in there to show off.
Yep. And then we get to the point where the first sabotage of the Red October happens.
Right.
And their drive goes down, and they have to go back to normal engines.
Right.
And at this point, we have no idea who the saboteur is. And then Jack keeps telling himself throughout this movie, like, Jack, you should have wrote a memo or something to that effect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, should have just written a memo, Jack. And then we have the scene where, he gets to the aircraft carrier and eventually wants to get to the Dallas because he knows that they're down there tracking Red October. And that they've been able to track it even with their Caterpillar drive on.
Right.
So he gets a helicopter to the sub, which basically they have to strip it down to almost nothing because there's not enough fuel to get it from the ship to the sub and back, or there's barely enough. So we get this whole sequence where he's trying to land on the fucking thing, and they're talking about the static electricity, which is real, by the way. That's something that we got taught a lot in our survival schools about the static when you're on a helicopter.
Yeah.
And letting it hit the ground first, like when they lower a line to you.
All right,
like,
let it hit the water.
Yeah, the water or the ground, depending on what it is. But those things carry a lot of static electricity, and they'll zap the fuck out of you. And
this is probably the last major point.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, there's one more major point, but I will say that the book, this singular helicopter flight, to get Ryan out there. This is where the British aircraft carrier is involved. The USS New Jersey makes a cameo.
I saw it. They mentioned the New Jersey.
The New Jersey battle group. Yeah,
but we didn't get to see it.
So the New Jersey was actually deactivated in 1990, I believe.
But this took place in 84, so it's all good.
Right. It would have been it would have been active in 84.
84.
I'm 37?
Close.
Sorry, I got to reach around too much.
Hey. But no, so the Admiral was actually on the New Jersey as the flag, not the Enterprise was not there. Like, they use the Enterprise in the movie because everyone knows the Enterprise, but the aircraft carriers that they're showing in the book, they really show how the Atlantic Fleet was kind of in transition. And like the USS America was there, and the Kennedy, which just recently got pulled into Brownsville to get fucking cut into pieces, literally yesterday.
Oh damn!
Look at my Instagram to see the pictures of it leaving Philly. Although I only posted the one picture, I really should post more pictures. Anyway,
yeah.
So, and the reason I bring that up is because the British aircraft carrier, its name is escaping me, that they use to get Jack Ryan out to, ultimately to get him out to the sub, he gets in the back seat of a Harrier, and they fly him in a Harrier out. The British fly him out in a Harrier, and Jack Ryan's on the British aircraft carrier for the most of the time. Until he goes out to a destroyer, and then from a destroyer he goes out to the Red October.
Okay.
So there's a lot of interplay with what's going on with the Brits getting a destroyer there, because at the same time, the plan is being formulated to.
Can you hear that?
I do hear that. What is that? Is that the heater?
Yeah, I'll turn it off.
Why don't you turn on the other one?
It's all the way over there. I'd have to get up.
Anyway,
carry on.
So the plan for, okay, we want to take the sub. How are we going to do it? Well, we have to sink we have to sink a submarine. All right, we'll take one of our old subs and prep it for sinking. All right, how are we going to do that? All right, we're going to super secret, and there's like all this other shit that's happening. Meanwhile, Jack Ryan's chilling on the fucking British aircraft carrier. Doesn't really have that plan. Doesn't know that part of the plan yet. So, again, we can't possibly, as cool as that would be to represent it in a fucking movie, we can't possibly do that. So, like, the plot line now completely diverges from all of that. To putting,
they'd have had to made a part 1 and part 2.
Yeah, to putting Jack Ryan on the Red October without all that extra shit.
Yeah. Okay, so fast forward a little bit. He's on that sub. They make kind of contact with the Red October to the point where they both go to the surface and have some Morse code conversations.
Which does happen in the book.
Okay.
Not between submarines. It's between a destroyer and the Red October, but still Morse code.
Okay. And then we get sabotage number 2, and we got radiation leaks now on Red October. So this was their opportunity to ditch the crew because the rest of the crew doesn't really know about the defection.
Right.
And, even Jack Ryan was theorizing earlier, like, how do you get rid of the crew and make them willingly want to leave the sub?
Yeah, how do you make someone want to get off a nuclear submarine?
Yeah.
Russians don't take a dump without a plan.
Yep. And so that was what it took. It took the radiation, leak to convince them that it was time to ditch. And I'm curious if this is the real method of ditching out of a fucking submarine. I mean, I guess it is, right?
It looks legit. I mean, get the same rafts that we kind of have in the airplanes.
That's exactly what I was thinking too.
And tie them to the deck until it's time to fucking release them.
Yeah.
Make it that. Now watching it now as a fucking old aviator, it seems completely legit that that's what they would do.
Yep.
Again, to reference the one of the plot points in the book, this radiation leakage bit, the several radiation leaks besides this one to make the crew believe that there's a radiation issue. Like, so there's psychological warfare happening like within the boat almost from the beginning, because apparently the dosimeter, fuck, damn it, Dave. Anyway, the radiation badges that they would wear and then turn in to the doctor, who's not in on the plot. Well, the doctor would, basically check those against his, like, okay, let me open the book. This is what we should have on day 5 or whatever. They should be within this range. So, and then each compartment has their own dosimeters. So when they would turn them in, they would, okay, if they're in the engine room, then they could have potentially more exposure than somebody who's in the forward.
Makes sense.
They tampered with the actual radiation badges. So there was a point where the doctor actually pulled legitimately had to he would old school fucking film develop these badges, and he developed them and saw that there was exposure to radiation that others weren't getting. So he had to raise the alarm for the captain, and then so they had to shut the reactor down and go through this whole radiation check, which the whole crew knew what was happening. So there's this the whole crew knows, okay, something's up with the reactor, but nobody's telling us. So they wanted to get off the boat. So when the last time it was okay, fuck, there's a radiation leak, we got to get off. Everyone was like, yeah, fuck this, we want to get the fuck out of here. When in reality, the badges and everything else had been tampered with. So it was a much more complex process than just a couple of alarms going off.
Yeah. And then a little bit later, we get this scene where they take that little transporter from one sub to the other.
The
From the-
DSLRV.
Yeah, from the Dallas to the Red October.
Mm-hmm.
And they get over there, and it's such a weird scene when the Russian guy opens the fucking door and he's just looking up and he's like, Americans. And then he's just speaking Russian for the rest of the time as they're
Right.
going down. So you're like,
Rapid fire, like too
yeah,
fast.
it's
Too
almost
fast.
like he's like giving them a tour of the boat. Like, over here is this, and over here is this.
Like, hi, my name is this, and this is what. Thank God you're here. Blah, 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 blah. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
and you-
speaking too fast. I can't
yeah, you-
understand what he's saying.
You get that feeling too, not knowing what the hell he's saying. That it's like he's shooting a lot of stuff out there
Right.
that nobody's quite understanding.
Diarrhea in the mouth. He's
Mhm.
the Russian version of the Soderman.
Yep. And then, this is where they come together, the two crews, the captain of the Dallas and Jack Ryan, and then the Russian officers.
Did you notice that the difference between the Navy, the U.S. Navy, and the Russian Navy, like with certain positions? So in the Russian Navy, like the sonarman was an officer, whereas in the American Navy it was enlisted.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Yeah,
Huh. It's a nice little attention to detail,
yeah,
assuming it's true.
yeah. That's how it was.
Yeah. And this is the point where the other Russian sub enters the fray. And, they there's so much back and forth with this sub fight. It's, too much to get into details, but it's a really cool sequence where they're basically trying to avoid this fucking guy. They've got, they do a couple of cool maneuvers as they're firing their first torpedo at him.
Mm-hmm.
And then, they fire the second one that's actually armed, and just this whole sequence, very cool. Don't even want to try to describe it here. Just go watch the movie because it's pretty neat the way they do all of this.
Yeah,
And ultimately, though, the Russian sub ends up killing itself.
yeah. One of the coolest parts of this is the Dallas like breaking the water.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, the crew of the Red October, the guys that are ditched, they're thinking that, oh shit, the Red October chased these guys out of the fucking water.
Here's of all the unrealistic things in this movie, how unrealistic is it that all these motherfuckers got picked up out of the water by this destroyer and are all on deck having snacks at this point?
Probably not that quick.
I don't think enough time has passed.
No.
I mean, to get all those motherfuckers out of the water would have been taken way longer than just this short amount of time.
And again,
There's-
these are Russian naval personnel. You're not going to just like, all right, just go sit over there. We'll give you some fucking snacks and we'll
Right.
come check on you in an hour. They're gonna be under tight guard. They're not going to be out there willy nilly like that. So, then right after that happens, we get the saboteur shows himself and kills Sam Neill. Rest in peace.
Right.
And he his dying words were, "Oh, I really wanted to see Montana." Yep. And then ultimately, this is where my notes kind of ended. Jack Ryan fights off the saboteur, who ended up being the cook or one of the cooks.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, a lot more happens here, especially a lot of back and forth with the ambassadors that we haven't talked about. The
Right.
Russian ambassador in the U.S.
Yeah, and with Jeffrey Pelt, who's the national security advisor.
Yeah, there's a lot more to it that happens at the end, but it all eventually gets resolved. And at the very last scene is Jack sleeping on an airplane.
Right.
So we've come full circle there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's some good sentimental moments too between him and Sean Connery as they're pulling in. What?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, none of that happens in the book.
Oh no,
No,
no fishing talk.
No, look, there's so much more shit that happens Like
Oh,
I
yeah.
said, there's 3 hours left in the book by the time you get to this point. The Russian Alpha doesn't even find that the boats are there until they're already up in the river.
Oh shit.
They get found by a Russian, basically a weather satellite that again by happenstance happens to get a clear shot of they're looking at any possible waterway that can hold a submarine or a boat, and they happen to find 3 submarine signatures and it's looking based on temperature, water temperature, because a submarine that's in the water, there's a temperature differentiation. Okay. So that's what the satellite is looking for. It's looking for differences in temperature of the water.
Okay.
So they see that there's submarines there. There's like 3 of them, because you have there's the Dallas. The Dallas is one, and there's, I forget what the Dallas or October, and there's another boat. And yeah, so this whole fight sequence happens with the Alpha after that, and and then you get to the point where it's like, okay, we've we're put out all the Russians in a safe house and get debriefed, and Jack Ryan gets patted on the back and like, oh, you did a fine job here, Jack.
Yeah.
And then moves on to the next crisis
adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So overall thoughts on this movie. I know we've probably got different opinions based on our different experiences, but I thought it was great. I thought I had a lot of fun with it, and I really enjoyed it more on the second viewing than the first. The first, I was just trying to absorb everything they were throwing at us, and then the second one, I was actually able to follow what the hell was going on. And as far as like, does it hold up to today's standards? I think it does for the most part. I mean, some of the underwater effects could have been improved with some, 2025 CG.
Sure.
But yeah, overall, I thought it was a great movie. It's kind of timeless because it takes place at a specific point in time.
Right.
So, you can watch this in 2050 and so like, oh, okay, this took place in 1984, blah, blah, blah.
Right. And this is what the world situation was in 1984. So, you can't change that.
Yeah. And for me, the lowest point was Jack Ryan himself. Like, I didn't like the way they fleshed out this character in this one. He, because again, I went into it with some expectations that he would be, again, much more of a badass and, much more in control of things and, shooting stuff and jumping out of planes and doing all kinds of crazy shit, where he was just, an analyst who was, again, kind of a pussy.
So, yeah.
And we didn't really get to see him a whole lot either. Like, he was not in a majority of this movie. Well, because, a lot of it was on the Sean Connery side and or other scenes where he, you almost kind of forgot about Jack a couple of times until it flashed back to what he was doing. So,
well, in fairness, he wasn't in the book the majority of the time. This is not a book about Jack Ryan. I mean, like I said, Skip Tyler was one of the main protagonists of the theories of this is how the Red October, this is the specs on the Red October and Cobb Sumland, these commanders and like how these decisions are made. Like, yeah, Jack's on a aircraft carrier at one point with the Brits sitting there watching what's going on, not really being involved, fairly deliberately. Yeah. So it's, yeah.
So, Bronco, no, it's Baldo in the chat. is saying tomato, tomato, tomato. I'm assuming he means something like a rating. If I had to give this a rating, I'd give it a solid 8 out of 10.
Yeah, this is a good. It's a good movie. I mean, there's a reason I own it in almost any format I can get it in.
Yep.
I enjoy watching the movie because I emotionally have the entire movie catalog, so that emotionally I'm not, this movie doesn't upset me. I'm not surprised by anything.
Sure.
But what I will say is, like, to your point about Jack Ryan, and there's a lot of books that Tom Clancy wrote that center around Jack Ryan as a character.
Yeah, and I think I saw that there were like 13, but then after he died, the guy that helped him write the last 3 wrote 26 more books.
Yeah.
Which I don't know how good any of those were.
Some of them are right. Some, like, I drifted off. I at some point I just was like, but I will say that the Clancy novels are tough because you have to, I think you have to have gone through the Cold War and to understand really what Clancy is writing about.
Yeah.
And I know it's hard. It's easier to watch a movie, right? Patriot Games, I think is a good movie with Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
In my brain, like Jack Ryan, the skinning of the character, for lack of a better term, is Jack Ryan.
Okay.
Not Alec Baldwin.
Right.
It's just, that's just not my Jack Ryan.
Yeah, and he was only in the one movie. They replaced him with Harrison Ford for at least 2 movies.
Yeah. At least 2.
Yeah.
But from a book perspective, like, as you talk about that Jack Ryan universe, I'm looking at the link that you posted in the notes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in the Ryan verse, as they call it.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Yeah, The Hunt for October, which was written in 1984, was the first one.
Yeah.
But it's not chronologically the first one. Patriot Games came out in 87. The Cardinal of the Kremlin came out in 88, which is a really good book. Clear and Present Danger was a good book. Some of All Fears came out in 91, which was decent.
Didn't they make a movie about that one?
They
Some
did.
of All Fears?
They did for Clear and Present Danger and The Sum of All Fears. Sum of All Fears, I think that was the Jack Ryan as Ben Affleck.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Which was just terrible, just absolutely terrible. Yeah, I did not enjoy that at all. The book Without Remorse came out in 1993. I will tell you that is not a Jack Ryan book. That shouldn't be on this list.
Oh, okay.
Jack Ryan's father is in this, and Jack Ryan has just a tertiary fucking part in this, because he's basically at the Naval Academy, I think. But it should not be counted, and I'll get back to that in a second. Depth of Honor, Executive Orders, 2 fantastic books. Those 2 books, the story that's in them, like, if you overlay that close to present day, it's like, holy shit, there's so many things.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's crazy. They're very, very good books. I will say though, Bronco Fett recommends Red Storm Rising, another excellent book, but it's not in the Ryan verse. It's its own separate thing.
But it is a Clancy book?
It is a Clancy book, and it's written very well. It's a good. I forget who does the narration. I think it's the same guy that reads Without Remorse. Without Remorse is probably is in my top 10 favorite books of all time.
Oh, no shit.
I'm looking at my shelf right now. I own at least 3 copies of that book.
Oh, wow.
I have it in a hardcover. I have a couple of soft covers. I have it on audiobook. It is a fantastic book.
Okay.
If you were going to do it on audio, I suggest doing it at like just a little bit faster, like at maybe 1 point. Just doing it. It's like the guy who reads it is very deliberate. So I just recommend reading it at just a little bit more pace, but the story that he tells is fucking compelling as all hell. And I've the only book that I've read more times, like reread more times than this one is Dune.
Okay.
Like I've reread Without Remorse. I probably read it annually.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm looking through Amazon right now through Audible.
It's going to be long. It's like a
ladies.
It's like a 20+ hour book.
Oof. All right, I'll check it later.
Yeah. But it's so fucking good, dude. It is so good. But like I said, it's not necessarily a Jack Ryan book. But that Depth of Honor and Executive Orders, fucking phenomenal books. Phenomenal books. And Red Storm Rising too. I put that up there as well. But again, they're not Jack Ryan books.
Right.
These Jack Ryans though that you're getting in here as it progresses through here it's not the Jack Ryan that you got in this movie.
Okay. Well, real quick, pivoting away from the Jack Ryan stuff. How about that Super Bowl, huh?
Well, how about that Super Bowl? I am terrified.
Yeah.
About the Super Bowl.
Yeah, well, you're the last stop. You're the only one stopping them from three-peating. You gotta hold the line.
Listen. When did the Eagles so here's what's weird, okay? Mm-hmm. Here's what's weird about being an Eagles fan right now. I've been an Eagles fan for my whole life.
Yeah.
Right? It's well documented. Born thousands of feet, a couple thousand feet from Veterans Stadium on the day that the Eagles played Dallas. 50 on my 50th birthday, it'll be on a Sunday where I'm hoping the Eagles play Dallas.
Oh, that would be fantastic, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah. If they're playing at home, it's going to be a thing. I already told Kathy, for my 50th birthday, if the Eagles are playing a home game on my birthday for my 50th, that's what we're doing.
All right, nice.
So this idea that the Eagles are now seen as one of one of those teams that people are just tired of because of they're in a winning conversation a lot.
Sure.
I'm not used to that. That narrative, I just I don't get it because I have so much emotional scar tissue built up.
Yeah. So yeah, because in the last decade, less than a decade, you've been to 3 Super Bowls, won at least one of them.
Yep. We've had a lot of success. It's been kind of bonkers. Shit, even since the Donovan McNabb, Andy Reid era. I mean, we've had a lot of success.
Mm-hmm.
More, I dare I say, more success than failure since the McNabb, Andy Reid era.
Oh yeah. I watched because that was at a time where, you know, we didn't have like satellite and all I could watch was local stations when I wanted to get my football fix. So I only watched the Eagles games. So I knew a lot about Donovan McNabb and that whole Eagles team.
And I just like, it's strange for me to even the fan base. It's I get pissed off because there's people within the fan base that they want to connect themselves to the old vet, to the 700 level, and you know, like pretend like they're old Eagles fans when they've only ever known success. They've only ever known winning seasons. Whereas, like, you know, they didn't live through the 80s. You know, after losing to the Raiders in that Super Bowl, it was like you had a lot of good teams to watch, but you couldn't watch them. Like that it boggles the mind that there were days when in my youth that there was genuinely a question, like you'd be at fucking church on Sunday and the conversation would be like, oh, I wonder if they're going to show the game or it's going to get blacked out because it's not a sellout.
Right.
Like the network would usually have to buy out the rest of the tickets or whatever it is that they did to be able to show the game on television.
Right.
Like that's how bad it was for years. My formative years, that's how bad it was. And we had good players. It just the team was just not good. You had dominant teams like the fucking Cowgirls and like everything else. It just was not good times.
Yep.
And now you got these spoiled ass kids. All they know is fucking winning. It's like honestly it's like it with the Phillies too.
Mm-hmm.
Like these Phillies fans that really only know success. It's crazy to me to even think. But that national narrative being what it is, it's like, really? Like we're that team now? Like that nobody wants us to win either?
Well,
Because,
I mean, I think the Chiefs are far, far ahead of you in that respect.
Sure. But
yeah, I've also heard the rumblings of, you know, the map, people who care about the Chiefs or the Eagles winning the Super Bowl. It's like two small dots and then the rest is all blank. And
yeah, this idea that people aren't going to watch because it's the fucking Chiefs and the Eagles. Like
people are
really?
going to watch. There's enough of a storyline here, you know, with the three-peat on the line, the rematch from 2 years ago. Saquon,
yeah. Honestly, whether Jim Moore can sleep, you know, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Chiefs are very beatable. They're a beatable team.
Mm-hmm.
They got here. You have to have some luck to get to the Super Bowl, and the Chiefs have had more luck than any other team that I could possibly imagine.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping it's a fair fight, that the officiating can stay the fuck out of it.
Yeah.
And
that would be terrible if it was a ref call that changed the tide of the game.
Like it was in the last Super Bowl, that it was the Eagles and Chiefs. You know, you get this phantom holding call that fucking changes everything.
Yeah.
But regardless, it's going to be fucking stressful. Like every one of these games has been. It's going to be. I don't know how to compartmentalize it to be not stressful.
Right.
Like now it's the Super Bowl. It's not just like, oh well. There used to be a time when you could lose a handful of games in the NFL and you'll be all right.
Yeah.
But it almost seems like it's getting into this almost like college where it's like, God, fuck. You can only have like 2, maybe 3 losses, if you want to be there for advancing.
Yeah.
So,
And with the 17-game season now, like I thought that was a huge mistake, the 17-game season.
yeah.
But whatever. But these teams are like beat the fuck up by the time the Super Bowl comes around.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and the way the buys are managed is fucking terrible. I don't like that at all. But I mean, it's the entertainment value is there. I mean, it's still the NFL, still the best product that you can get.
Absolutely.
I just hope that the Eagles show up and
I feel like it's going to be all on their defense. Like if the Eagles defense does what it's supposed to do, then they win the game.
Yeah.
That's it. Because you're going to get points between Saquon and your fucking dumbass quarterback. You're going to get some points. And it's just, can you stop Mahomes from running like crazy?
Yeah. They lucky fucks. I just it's the luck factor that I'm nervous about. But we'll see. Yep. We'll see.
I'll be watching from my hotel room in Disney.
So what's your prediction?
So somebody else asked me this, and I said, gun to my head, I have to pick someone, and if I lose, they shoot me. I'd go with the Eagles because of the defense. Like I feel like the Eagles defense will be the factor in this game. It'll shut down, not completely shut down, but it'll stop them enough to win the game. That's my prediction.
Let me see what the line is right now.
I base this on no facts whatsoever.
Because these are the rules that I just made up.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
But yeah, gun to my head, I'd put my money on the Eagles.
I'll tell you what, the line is close right now. I mean,
I bet it is.
It's got the Chiefs by 1.5.
Yeah.
Which is basically nothing.
Yep.
It's a coin flip. I mean, I'm obviously going to go with my Eagles for very, very similar reasons. I think the defense is above average. And I think you have to... The difference between this team and the team that we had 2 years ago is that there are people that you have to account for on the defense.
Yeah.
There are people that you're going to be scared of if you're an offensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
And that... Not that Andy Reid can't game plan for that, but they are going to be disruptive. And Andy Reid making in-game adjustments starts to that's where the chink in the armor starts to show up a little bit. And if it's not necessarily about forcing Mahomes to be creative, because he can do that. He can find receivers and do those types of things.
Yeah.
But if you're making them do that on almost every play, if you're disguising your defenses and you're forcing turnovers, then you're going to have a chance. I agree with you. The offense is going to score points.
Yeah.
I don't think Saquon's going to get 150 yards. I think he'll get 100 yards, but I think it's going to have to be fairly conventional. And for fuck's sake, they have to stick with it. They can't be like, oh, if Kansas City goes out and scores fucking 7, like, oh no, we're going to try and throw up to catch up. Like, no. Fucking, you give the ball to Saquon, you run the ball to set up the throw.
Yeah.
You know, you averaged 150 to 200 yards a game throwing. Fucking run the goddamn football and win this fucking Super Bowl. So, I don't know. We'll see. I'm terrified, quite frankly.
Yeah. Well, I think that's where we need to cut this off because we're already over our time. So if you have any last notes, if you want to blast through them real quick.
I'm just going to do for the ATSW... ATSW family happenings on Wednesday. ATSW The Escape Pod will be discussing Donna Brady's Las Vegas vacation, which have been following along on social media.
Gay.
Join Don Del Snooch, Brady Big Lovin', and Dragon Buddy in a live chat at 19:05, 7:05 Eastern on the YouTube. On Thursday, Alan and DB will be discussing the 2017 horror comedy The Babysitter.
Never heard of it.
Join them at Gravy Views on YouTube at 2000, 8 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, I think they just sit on babies and kill them. Big
sounds
Swede's
great.
metal band Till the End is headed to Budapest in March for his first European tour. Holy shit, now this is right around the corner.
I know. Shit.
Check out their new single, Cemetery Trees, on the socials and YouTube. It freaking rocks. The Orange and Vet Show released episode 132, Tacos and Transformers. Taco, taco, taco.
That's right where my mind went.
This past Friday. Find them on Apple and Spotify. You can find us at bio.link/the Sidebar Cantina, where you can find our links to Patreon, YouTube, and our audio podcast on Apple, Audible, and Spotify, and all social media platforms, including Instagram, Facebook, Twitch, and TikTok and Discord. TikTok still? Is that still a thing? They shut it down?
No, that's still a thing.
Is it? Oh.
Yeah. Now there's talk about like Microsoft trying to buy it. I don't know.
See ads saying how TikTok and businesses are a thing, which I'm sure is the case. I mean, honestly, small business makes money off of TikTok. Good on them.
Yep.
I don't disparage any of that.
We just don't contribute to it.
Yeah. Until somebody tells me, hey, the government says that you can go on TikTok, then I got to stay off of it.
Yeah. Nothing.
I'm going to skip all that. Huh? What?
Nothing. My computer made a noise.
Oh. We still have that review for the from our Scottish thing, and when I am in studio, we will do that because that has the proper microphone for it, and I won't be sick. So we'll do that next week. Also next week.
2 weeks. Next week I'll be in Disney.
Also next show, we are going to be breaking down somebody's Disney trip.
Yeah.
And like we talked about with a certain 3D printed DS2.
Oh yeah.
It's gonna make a debut. So we're gonna have a guest, either virtually or in person, probably virtually, just by nature of the timing, but we're going to have a guest on, and that guest could have a small moon.
All right. Is that it?
That's it. That's all I got.
All right, guys. Well, we got to go because I'm looking over there like the camera's still there.
Right.
We got to go. We're way over time. So thank you to everybody for joining in. Thank you to Dave for toughing it out and doing the show with us. And until next time, go America? I don't know.
America.
Fuck yeah.
Again, same motherfucking day, yeah. We're just finishing.
Yep. We only need one line left to be done.
Okay, now what do I click?
There we go.
Now we're done.